This episode is brought to you by Cellular Performance Institute. Is your body beat up and broken down? Look into stem cells today. It could change your life. Go to cellularperformanceinstitute.com. Join Sam Tripoli and I on the road for Tinfoil Hat Comedy, June 13th in Cleveland, June 14th in Pittsburgh, July 18th and 19th in San Diego, August 1st in Boston, August 2nd in Connecticut, October 10th in Tulsa, October 11th in Oklahoma City. Go to samtripoli.com for tickets. See you on the road.
I can't believe it.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Look Into It. Tonight, it's all chemtrails with independent researcher KATHRYN SAARI. What's up, KATHRYN?
Hi, it's great to be here, Eddie. I've heard so many good things about you from our mutual friend.
Yeah, that must be Hibbler.
It is Hibbler, yes. In fact, I met Hibbler at my place the other day. I don't know if I could speak about it here, but it was such a pleasure to find more people that I have so much in common with, you know, as I've been on this journey, this rapid awakening for the last 5 years since 2020 really is like the catalyst that started this all for me.
Hibbler, do you want to talk about why you were interviewing her?
Yeah, I'm in the process of starting a new film called Climate Trails, and I've reached out to many in the game. Now, this is my rookie of the year to me is KATHRYN, and she came out with a bang, and I can't wait for you guys to hear her story. But yeah, she was very, let's just say, very knowledgeable about this topic and has done a lot of work. But the main one is going to speak to the chemtrail pilots. So, and I know so many, just hundreds of thousands of people watched it, as you know, KATHRYN, and it's just very courageous. I just want to thank you again, and thanks for being a part of the film. It's going to change the world.
I hope so.
Can we start with showing that video? Can you pull that video up, Hibbler, and let's just watch it?
It's mostly audio. It's audio, but I'll play a snippet of it.
15 minutes long, and I took audio, and then my friend was outside of the building. It was in the middle of the night, and so my friend came up to the door. Once I texted him that I had gotten inside of this private FBO, he came up and filmed outside. So it was like an overlap of my audio with him filming me from the outside. So, and it's about 15 minutes long. You won't want to play the whole thing, but there are some clips from that. Yes.
Hi. Yes. Great. Thank you.
Good. What can I do for you?
Good to see you. I'm here. You're Tim, right?
No.
Oh, no.
No. I don't know a Tim.
Jody?
No, don't know. Well, I know a Jody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jody Fisher?
No, yeah, I know Jody Fisher.
You do? Okay, good.
Yeah.
And then who are you?
I'm one of the other captains.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So come on outside. We're not. We're just whatever. Are you free? No?
No, I gotta reflare.
Okay, so
stuff, but
I have paperwork for you that I want to give to you. So
Okay.
hang tight, I'll go get it. But then we've been trying to reach Jody and you for a long time.
Okay.
And we are tired of you dumping heavy metals all over our county.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not the one to talk to about that.
No, but you are. But you're the one that's doing it. So I've been taking rain samples. I have over 20 samples. And every time you fly, we get high amounts of aluminum, barium, strontium, titanium, magnesium. So I want to know, are you aware of what you're doing? I know you think it's like to increase water supply for Turlock and Modesto, but it's not really happening.
Yeah, you can talk to them
I've tried.
about that.
I've called them, and they're not calling me back. So we're now getting really involved, and now we're going to bring something legal against your company.
Okay, well, you can talk to them about that for sure.
I know, but I want you to know, though, like, we are real people underneath what you're doing. You spray right over our houses. We hear you. We know you. We see you. We're watching your planes and your patterns, okay?
Yeah,
it's twice
I get
today
that.
now. You did 2 flights. 2 3-hour flights.
It's public knowledge, yeah.
It's not really, though. That's the problem. So you have not properly notified our board of supervisors about this. Hi, are you the other pilot?
Yes.
Hi. What's your name?
Khaled.
Khaled?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
hi.
Hi.
It's not we have people at home base that you can talk to about that stuff.
But they've not called back. So now we're getting to the point where we're getting our supervisors involved. So the supervisors of our county needs to be notified. They've not been notified. You've been doing this for 30 years. I know it's a long time. You guys are like, it's cool, it's easy. We're talking about all of the metals and the flares that you're using. So aluminum and zinc propel the silver iodide. You're spraying right over us all the time. And our plant life is suffering. They are now selling aluminum, genetically modified seeds to grow food because our soil is so contaminated. Okay, so what you're spraying is not good for the environment, and it's not good for the people because there's an early onset dementia, there's Alzheimer's, things are starting to happen to people's health. And I really do believe there's a linkage to what we're breathing in the environment every day. When you guys spray us in November through April, it's your yearly contract. I'm aware of that too. So I just wanted to meet the pilots and say, you know, where's Jody? I've called Jody, I've talked, I think Leslie was the other one, Leslie Fisher? No, it's another Fisher.
Yeah,
Lisa?
probably his wife.
Okay,
But,
yeah.
yeah, no, that's their responsibility. That's not our responsibility.
I understand, yeah. But the money that you're receiving to do this is coming from, is it taxpayers that are paying for this?
That's not my department.
I want you to be aware. Do you have family?
Yeah, I have family.
I have family too, I have
Yeah.
children. So we're outside and we hear your plane over us all the time. And I've been tracking this for a long time. And we have tried to get the supervisors involved and they're clueless. They were not informed. According to the California codes and law, they should have notified our supervisors because you're doing this to benefit TID, okay? Mm-hmm. But it's not. It's happening over, well, it might be, but it's happening over our area, okay? Sonora, Groveland, Coulterville. You're doing your little figure eight loops. My 20 rain samples will show you that on the days that you're spraying or releasing your flares, we have copious amounts of aluminum, magnesium. There's been some barium, strontium, but titanium's weird. Is titanium also in your flares? Okay, that's unique for me. So I want you to know that there are health impacts and impacts to the soil and the plant life and all of those things. And when you do this, my whole community is watching. We don't know what to do.
Yeah, I understand your opinion.
It's not an opinion,
So-
though. I will show you my samples. I'd love to.
I don't want to see your samples.
Why
You
is
can-
that?
You can take those to my
But you're
company.
flying the plane. But then how do I get in touch with Joey so he calls me back? I've left messages. We've tried reaching him multiple times. How do I get in touch with him?
Either call him again or...
Do you have a card I can use?
You stop. I don't have this card, no. You
So I want you to know I
stop
drove all
by
this
here.
way because I saw you flying for the second time tonight. So you flew twice tonight.
So you confront this pilot
Yes.
and you grill him. I saw the video, and you grill him, and he's just stumbling. Can you take us through your awakening in regards to chemtrails and geoengineering?
Yes. So
How did it happen?
well, it's, it really started my whole life. I was sort of adolescence and high school and on, you're locked into the social world and what's hot, what's not, and navigating. And so I like to say that I lived in a fog for much of my, my youth and then into my 20s and 30s. And it wasn't until having my son in my early 30s that I had an opportunity to slow down and observe my surroundings. I used to be a corporate jet flight attendant, so I was traveling all the time, globetrotting and living the high life in Los Angeles. And so it was bringing a child into this world that really was the beginning of my, my awakening, because I've said this before, but you're bringing life into the world and suddenly you're seeing things through the eyes of this baby and you're showing them things and you're teaching them things and you're seeing it again through this fresh, new, lens. And so we were on the grass many times when he was a little toddler, a baby on the ground. And I was able to observe, clear skies in the morning and then grid patterns. And I would be outside all day and I'd watch these grid patterns dissipate and cover the entire sky. So it was this hazy, filmy sky by 4 o'clock or so, 5 o'clock, when most people are coming out of work. And after seeing this many times, I thought, this does not feel right or natural. I'd never taken the time to observe it before. And
Had you ever heard of chemtrails before at that point?
Never.
So
Never.
You had never even heard of it. What did you think it was?
I didn't know. I just thought, I knew something was wrong. And the first time I was introduced to the term chemtrails was when I went to the local health market, and I actually was compelled to say to the cashier, I said, do you notice this? Do you see these lines that just spread out? And do you notice this? I was really disturbed. She said, yeah, those are chemtrails. And that was my very first time ever hearing the term. I had no idea until later on that people had been talking about this and fighting this for decades, Rosalind Peterson and so many others. And so that was the beginning of this particular journey. I went home and I researched chemtrails, and I learned about Dane Wigington. And so, and then I got a little more familiar with his work, and it was mind blowing for me. I had never conceived of anything like this being a possibility. And so I remember in the early days trying to share information on social media. I was on Facebook, and I was so mocked and laughed at and told I was an idiot. So I stopped. And so for years, though, I continued to observe. And then, but I didn't speak out anymore. I was kind of shamed into my place, right? That's what they have people doing to each other. You get people pitted against each other and doing the, silencing each other and shutting each other down. And it wasn't really until it was gradual. I've told this to Sean and many others, but I started to then slowly even awaken even more with my child, because at the time I was, again, like superficial for most of my life, just what's hot, what's not, where are we going, enjoying the finer things. And then I was also blindly trusting of the medical system. So I didn't think to question anything when I went into every single well visit, where the purpose of these well visits is really just to inject your babies with a lot of I now believe to be harmful interventions that actually are intended, I feel now, to cause harm. Because when you cause harm with injected aluminum, injected, foreign DNA, you have a lifelong client on your pharmaceutical drugs. And so sadly, that took me many, many years to finally open my eyes to that. And we had health issues for a very long time that I didn't even connect the dots at the time. And so that was a huge part of my awakening, because what I realized then was when I learned how to read package inserts, and I learned the medical terminology. This took time. This took years to really wrap my head around it all. And that is an eye-opening experience. In fact, I felt absolutely sick. I remember my stomach sinking when I was learning about how toxic these aluminum adjuvants really were. And I had a very generous author of several studies about aluminum send me his full studies for free, because I reached out and said, I can't afford to pay to see past the abstract, but I'd really be interested in reading more about your work. And that was it was a punch in the gut for me to realize that I had blindly handed my child over without ever questioning any of multitudes. Now, if you are aware, they are, since the late 1980s, they've gave immunity to vaccine manufacturers, so they have no real incentive to make safer products, and they're just trying to get it into our babies. Even like the hepatitis B vaccine, they give 3 to little babies, first day of life, couple months later. That is loaded with aluminum adjuvant, and I had no idea. And Hep B, as you know, is a needle sharing, or if you're sexually promiscuous, at risk. There's no reason we should be giving this to babies, right? And so that is sort of where then I realized, the system is not very kind. I wasn't informed. They didn't inform me. You'd get a handout saying, here's the shots you need today. And I thought I was being a good mom. And I didn't have anyone in my life that was able to say, you don't have to go to every well visit. You're doing really well at home. You're breastfeeding. You're eating really clean. Your baby's healthy. You don't have to run into every single visit, but that's what they do. They get you. First, they start out by making you feel incompetent to have a natural birth, right? And then they want you in their hospital on your back, legs in stirrups, injected with numbing agents and, pumped with Pitocin. It's a bad system. So I have, over the last, roughly now almost 12 years, recognized that we are up against an adversarial system. All of it is meant to make you sick and to cause harm so that you become dependent on what they want you to be dependent on, which is their handouts, their drugs, and everything else. So I learned the hard way. So fast forward from that experience to then 2020.
Can I ask you something?
Absolutely.
Was your child injured?
Yes. Well, so here's the thing. when people hear injured, they think, banging their head against the wall. The injury takes many, many forms, right? When you're introducing adjuvants into the body and they're exposed to elements in the environment, they can become allergic to many things. There's all sorts of allergies now. There's ADHD. There is respiratory issues. There's insulin-dependent diabetes. If you look at the MMR package insert, one of the first things listed is the diabetes mellitus. I read it, so if I mispronounce it, that's insulin-dependent diabetes. My own sister, at the age of, I think, 7, was diagnosed with insulin-dependent diabetes. And what was interesting that we learned later, after I started doing my research, my mom remembered that the nurses were all in shock because there was this rash of diagnoses for these young children, juvenile, diabetes.
Yeah, stem cells, they could do some wild shit down there.
I got the stem cells in my shoulder. My shoulder was jacked. I went down there, worked, man.
Eric Anders' neck was up, and then he went down and got stem cell treatment. Now it doesn't bother him at all anymore.
I definitely recommend CPI. It's changed my life. The best stem cell clinic in the world.
I just come and I do stem cells to make sure that I'm resetting my body and staying healthy.
It regenerates tissue, reduces inflammation. The results are amazing.
CPI stem cells is where you want to go. There's no other place in town. They do the best work in the world. I feel incredible.
If there's anything causing you to not live the quality of life that you like, then this investment is more than worth it.
When it comes to the science of stem cells, no one comes close to CPI. There's not even a close second.
For a free doctor call to see if stem cells is the right option for you, visit us at cpistemcells.com.
And they didn't know why, the nurses at the time. And of course, we were getting our DTaP, right, DTP, and we were getting MMR, and we were getting our polio, right, as children. Now they have kids getting so many doses of so many more injections. It's mind-numbing when you see.
It's like 70 injections total.
Oh, by the time, I think it's like 72 by the time you're 18. And if, it's a shame. It's a shame. So I have become, I was fully trusting, fully pro interventions. I believed in the system. I believed that doctors were informed and really cared about our health. Boy, was I wrong, and I won't shut up about it now. Anytime I see a new mother or somebody that's pregnant, I just let them know, look up, learn the risk. And here's, if you're interested in information, I'd be happy to share it with you. And so I've become outspoken because I think now, if just one person had even planted that seed for me and said, you don't need to go to every well visit. It's not really all about wellness. And you should really look into a package insert of the vaccines they're going to try to give your child. I wouldn't be where I ended up.
Yeah. And what I do is anytime a friend of mine is pregnant, I always recommend watching The Greater Good and Vaxxed. I go, watch that. Get your girl to watch that. Just if you could sit through that and watch The Greater Good, and you still go through the schedule of vaccines, then you're retarded.
I've never seen The Greater Good. I'll have to watch that.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I saw there was a great series called The Truth About Vaccines, I think, that I watched finally. Mm-hmm. And then I learned about Dr. Humphreys, Suzanne Humphreys, who was recently on Joe Rogan. Thank goodness she finally gets to this mainstream platform. And I had then learned about her and how polio and DDT, all the chemicals they're spraying. And we should talk about the chemicals that we're still being sprayed with today, okay? Yeah. There's a lot there. But talking about just the charts, the graphs, it's like introduction of DDT, and then it's the symptoms that they call polio. It's a long history. You can learn more about that on that interview. But I started researching conflicts of interest. I looked into the CDC. Everything you'll find, all of our regulatory agencies have this nonprofit foundation behind them. And so there's the CDC Foundation, okay? And I have a video. I've started making videos in 2020, and I was kicked off of YouTube, put in prison, so now I'm on BitChute and Substack. But so the CDC Foundation is heavily funded by all the same players that you would think that they wouldn't want to be affiliated with. And that's how they do it. So, military, banking, pharma, tech, hospitals, they're all in bed together through these foundations. This is where the money flows and the influence occurs. And they have the conditional gifts, right? So a donor will give the CDC Foundation some money based on if they're going to do things a certain way that makes the donor happy, right? So then you have the foundation for the NIH, same thing. It's a joke when you start to realize that these regulatory agencies that claim to be looking out for our health and safety and, security are actually being funded by the very corporations, businesses, again, banking, pharma, tech, military, that are actually causing harm. So there's a lot of layers there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I've been an open book on so many. I've had interviews about this before, but you know, that was sort of a massive chunk for me. Oh, and the other thing was my father was diagnosed in 2019. I had a very stressful few years, like 5 years. I felt like I was on a hamster wheel with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And that led me into another, you know, what I'm finding are patterns here is learning about how Monsanto had ghost writers on different studies that were claiming that glyphosate was safe. So this revolving door, again, between CDC and pharma, right, and the EPA and massive chemical corporations, it is the same thing over and over and over. Revolving doors, money's being made. You have CDC directors of the CDC. Once they leave they fast track vaccines to market, cause a lot of harm, and then when they retire, they go into working for example, Julie Gerberding, CDC director, fast-tracked HPV to the market, caused a lot of harm. Then she went to work for Merck, millions upon millions in stock options and everything else. And now I believe she's now the president of the vaccine division. It's so criminal. It's so abhorrent that I have completely walked away from the system. I don't take my animals to the vets. I don't take my baby. I don't go to the hospital or the doctors anymore. I'm done. I'm out of that system.
Yeah. It's amazing how they had you, your brain locked up.
Yeah.
For 30 years, for like
Yes.
up until your late 20s or whatever it was. And then boom, look at you now. You're like on fire.
You wouldn't recognize me. Even 5 years ago, I've come so far, because when 2020 hit, as you probably know, for many people, I had already known enough about the vaccines to know that there was a possibility that a digital passport tied to your vaccines would be coming. And I went to school actually many years ago to be a journalist, okay? And then I got my massage license, which then led me into working for the corporate jet. So I'm just giving you a little more background there. But I actually went to school to become a journalist. I was doing the teleprompter for a while. I was doing massage therapy for a long time. And then I got into the private jet world through that massage license, because I trained flight attendants in in-flight supplemental massage. So head, shoulders, neck, arms. And so I did that. I went from aspiring journalist to then flying around on corporate jets, which was way more fun. I mean, I got to see the world on the company dime and flew really interesting people. And but where was I going with this? So 2020, and I started going to the media telebriefings, listening to, so the media would there was a call with the CDC, and the CDC was giving them updates about what they were observing, what was going on. And of course, I knew media because I did the news desk for a while when I first started out. And they're always looking for a mountain out of a molehill to keep their ratings interesting. And what I saw the media do was just blow it up, just over-exaggerate it and hype the fear. And I watched, again, I think what was most shocking for me was watching the behavior of people just so rapidly change. They were rabid. I mean, everyone started shouting at each other to stay home. I have one child, so our friends in the cul-de-sac were told we should no longer play. So then we were very isolated, and then suddenly there are these dots outside of grocery stores, and people are some people are wearing masks, some people are wearing their gloves. There was a limit on who could go into stores or not. I'm sure you probably are aware of all of this and have memories and have talked about this, but that was alarming for me, was to watch people shift. And then I had doctors in my area, in my neighborhood, and they were panicking. They were saying, it's killing 30-year-olds. And this is early on. And I said, where are your sources? Because I'm reading into this and I'm not seeing what you're seeing. I mean, they have people under observation, but they're fine. Like, they're basically symptom-free. They're just keeping them under watch. And they sent me YouTube videos of people falling over in China as their source.
Yeah.
That was shocking for me, to see medical professionals giving me videos that were fear porn videos to say that this is so. I was very disappointed. That was a huge wake-up call for me. Then in the middle of this, April 2020, we relocated to we had been planning to relocate but we were not going to do it until the summer. But I ended up doing it in a hurry because we started watching everything shut down. We thought, well, we're not going to get out of here if we don't leave now. So my husband went into an Airbnb and I moved with my son into an apartment, a rental home in Santa Cruz County, which we thought would be a really special place to live. It's beach community. It's kind of laid back, a little quirky. Well, it was a whole other world of quirky because these folks took it to the next level. I mean, they were militant. And it was like when the masks came, they were masked to the hilt. You couldn't walk around without a mask on. You couldn't go to the beach without mask warnings on the signs. And they closed the beaches. They roped off the parks, literally roped them off. They shut down all the bathrooms at parks. So if you were going to go for a hike, all the bathrooms were locked. So people were just going behind the buildings. I mean, if they really care about health and safety, you leave a bathroom open, don't you think? I mean, it was disgusting. So it was the hypocrisy, and I could see it. And that was the beginning of my really strong activism, because then I knew that this was being overplayed. People were losing their minds. And
at this point, is this after you got into chemtrails online and then you got shut down and you quit? This is after?
Yes.
So this brought you back.
This all brought me back. Now, I didn't fully come back into the chemtrail stuff, geoengineering, until 2020. I was so engrossed with fighting for our rights. I stopped wearing a mask. I had police, called on me. I was kicked out of stores. That was a whole intense period that I've covered many times. In fact, I started documenting for this reason. I started the channel, the BitChute channel, in one way to document what was going on. So there was a timestamp to what was happening, because I've always journaled, okay? And the journalist side of me always wanted to preserve and remember. I love, memories and photos, and I preserve those things. And also my son was too young to understand everything that was happening. So we were just trying to figure out what was really going on. And so I started researching and trying to figure out what was going on. And so that, we can talk more about that, or I could just get into the chemtrail.
No, take your time to talk more about that.
Yeah, well, I want
to know the whole story.
Okay. So I started resisting. I decided in June of 2020, I was done wearing the mask to go shopping. And I did this, I ended up doing this alone, because I would grocery shop for my family. Of course, I was the homemaker and the mother. And I used to love shopping and food preparation, and it became a nightmare. I started dreading going into the stores because it was always a battle. And I tried very kindly. And also I did get this really nasty face rash. Okay. And this was probably a combination of stress, but then also the mask really was a nasty thing. And so, I got a doctor's note, and it created a lot of anxiety. It made me angry to have to wear it. And I thought I was going to lose my marbles every time I put one on, because I knew it was bogus. Oh, because I was also researching. So when the masks came, back up a little bit more, my husband said, this isn't going to last. Don't worry about it, because masks are useless. There's plenty of studies done on influenza that you could look into. I mean, they're bad for your health, and the way people are wearing them is a joke. So I did. I looked into the studies that existed before the fake convent studies. And I realized, oh my gosh, these are really bad for your health. So I compiled this summary of like 50 studies to just share with people. And I was trying to educate people, like, this doesn't really stop anything. You're not protecting yourself. You're just wearing this little face diaper, and it's not doing anything. And it's really actually isolating us, because you can't see each other's expressions. So, I got very involved, and it was such it was just a brutal couple of years, because it was fighting to have a right to access the beach. I ended up meeting a group of amazing people that were holding down the beach, playing live music, coming together, mask-free, resisting the shutdowns. I was protesting with people. I ended up getting a bullhorn and using my bullhorn we were being ignored by the superintendent. And one of my most proud moments was a group of really frustrated parents who were tired of being ignored on their Zoom calls, because everything went remote, right? You couldn't even express how you were feeling. Everyone's on their Zoom meetings, and they would be alone wearing their mask on the Zoom meetings. That's how corny it was. And so we all went to protest at the superintendent's office, and I had my bullhorn outside, and there's a lot of angry parents that are trying to reach the superintendent. And a friend said to me, a girlfriend goes, the front door's unlocked if you want to go in. And this is the county office of education. And I was like, okay, let's check it out. So I opened the door, and this was all filmed by somebody, which was fantastic because it was a great memory. And they were open, and I just said, we want to talk to the superintendent. And people came in, and we were all inside the building, and he's like, well, you can't be here. We have a mask policy. And I said, well, we're peaceful, but we're going to march through the building because we're not going to be ignored anymore. And we want to be heard. And so we did. It was very peaceful. And I ran into the superintendent on the top floor wearing a rainbow mask. And I said, are you Faris Sabah? Because I'd sat on a meeting with him previously to try to get him to stop with the masking and the testing requirements, and the temperature requirements and all that crap. And he said, yes, I am. I said, there's a group of parents outside that want to have a conversation with you. So he came outside, and we shared my bullhorn, and I asked questions. I don't know if Sean's pulling something else up, but yes, it was amazing. It was amazing because it was so organic. He's using my whatever that is, that little microphone, and I'm asking him questions. He's speaking. This guy over here, David, was also very inspirational at the time. He's trying to tell me something, but I'm ignoring him because we've got this flow going, and parents are chanting and angry. But it was a great conversation. But unfortunately, it was so successful and so incredible, and he heard us, and we all felt heard. It was an amazing experience. There's videos out there on it, YouTube. But then the next day, he went on social media and said, I think they were worried because we reached them. We pulled them out of the building. It became this thing. And he said, I don't condone any of this. We're going to beef up security, and we're not going to tolerate this anymore. Even though it was the most peaceful, beautiful experience ever. We all felt like he heard us, and we showed up, and our voices were acknowledged, But anyway, so lots of memories like that. That's just one of many, 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 many protests that I did. It was great. And it was great. I met my tribe because I cut off all my old friendships and relationships who were locked into the COVID fear, because I tried to reach them. They weren't reachable. They were absolutely like, you wear the mask, you follow it's for the greater good. It's for your community. It's for the love of family. And I just said, I can't even be around that. So it was like, it was perfect because I had just relocated. So all my old friends back in Fresno, which is where we were living, I cut them off and started anew. It was amazing. Yeah, that was such an amazing time. I'll see if I can send you the YouTube. Yeah, Drexel.
A few weeks ago, saying that he wants to be able to require it as part of the process.
But all other vaccines are required.
I know, yes. So we are here because we are taking a stand against anything mandated that is EUA authorized. So emergency use authorized products, they are protected under the PrEP Act. There is no long-term studies to tell us the detriments of wearing a mask every day. There's a lot of science out there that talks about how bad it is for your health. So we want the masks off, we want to stop the testing, we want to let children be children, and we do not want the vaccine mandate.
Isolation of the covert genome.
He's smiling. Oh, Sean, I'm sorry. I haven't seen this in a while. And that was one of the most amazing. I felt so elated after that because I was like, we got in. We got him to come out and talk to us because I was so tired of being ignored. They would have these Zoom meetings. They would force you to wear a mask to come and leave a 3-minute comment. It was so frustrating. Sorry, I get a little emotional seeing that. I haven't seen it in a while, but that was a really amazing, amazing day. And that was where we felt like our voices were heard. And that was really all we wanted we didn't like being ignored or stonewalled. And that remains my spirit to this day. I will not be ignored. You're not going to push me off on some other person. And I want answers. And I'm going to go get in your face. And I will march through your building.
Now, how did you deal with your child being jabbed for COVID in order to stay?
Oh, no, I did not give him the COVID shot. Oh, and he didn't have to have it to go to school. Thankfully, they did not require, they approved it, right? This is the other thing. I was fighting. They knew they were going to approve these shots, these bioweapons for children 12 and up and then 6 months and up. Well in advance. California had something called the California Department of, CD, it was the vaccination playbook. I forget the title now. I have old information. And they had the dates of when they would purchase the vaccines, and they were purchasing them. They had preparation for it. And so when the advisory committees went through their joke of a theatrical performance of, we're going to review this, we're going to make sure it's safe and effective, we're going to decide if we're going to approve it or not for these children, these age groups, that was all theater. I mean, I poured myself into writing letters to these advisory committees. I really wanted them to know my concerns. They don't care. I learned that they don't care. They've got it premeditated, and they're just going to roll it out template style. I also advocated for people to refuse, because it was under the EUA. The masks, testing, and vaccines were all experimental, okay? They were all authorized under the emergency use authorization, which means experimental. You have a right to refuse experimental products, end of story. There was no regard for that. They didn't care. They discriminated against people left and right. My own son was kicked out of his little school at the time because I refused to put a mask on him. And he also had his own note for the mask, not to wear one. And the county tried to, and he was the only one in a school that wasn't masked. The county tried to then get access to my private medical records for him to see why he had a mask exemption. And I said, hell no, I'm not signing that form. And they said, well, and the school said, well, then we can't accept it. And I said, so what are my options? They said, well, you have to homeschool, or you have to show us your private medical documentation. I said, well, I'm out. It was the most stressful time trying to keep him out of that. I never put a mask on him. I never stuck a swab up his nose, not once. So I'm very proud of that. Oh,
same thing with my son. We found
we did have one. Sorry about that. We did have one swab for travel, but that was it. And that sucked. But it was a compromise for my husband, who lives for his travel. And so we did it for him, even though I didn't like it. It was that kind of the marital compromise you make, because we were not on the same page. It was very hard, and the marriage was struggling because of all of this as well. So you sort of have to do a little give and take, because you're sharing this little person. And I knew that if we were to separate, that obviously I would be considered the crazy one, and I couldn't leave my kid. And now we've come a long way. We've come through it. We were stronger because of all of it. But go ahead.
Yeah. I'm lucky that my wife is fully red pilled. She was way more against the jab than I was. She's an expert on jabs. And we found a school an hour and a half away. It was a Christian school. An hour and a half away, that they didn't make their kids wear masks. So that's the school he went to. It was hard for a while, but there was no way we were going to put a mask on him. No way. Right. I don't know how many times. Anytime we walked into a supermarket, we would have to wear the mask, right? But I would have I would always have my mask under my nose, and then they would say, "Can you cover your nose?" But I would make them tell me over and over. And I'd be at the supermarket fucking pissed. So pissed, walking around, go, please, someone say something. And I'm not a violent person. I grew up a big pussy. I'm not like this violent guy at all. No. But man, at the supermarket, like the gangbanger came out in me, like the real Mexican came out. I wanted to punch people at the supermarket. And
that was exactly how I felt. I said, if I have to wear a mask, I'm going to lose my marbles in the effing store. I was like ready to swing, right? It brought out the violent tendencies in you. It was because I knew it was so stupid. It was like, put on your little mask and march, follow the arrows like a good little sheep. And I just thought, there's no way in hell I'm doing it. So what I found, though, sadly, is that I could no longer bring him with me, because the confrontation was so much, it stressed him out. So we had this moment where they called the sheriffs, and when this happened, I called my husband and said, come get him, because I'm waiting for the sheriff. I'm not leaving here until I talk to him, because I'm not going to run and tuck my tail. So they kicked me out of the store. This woman came up. She was like, get out of the store. And so called the sheriffs. My son thought I was going to be arrested. So he's in the parking lot screaming and kicking. And my husband came and picked him up. And after that, I'm like, I'm not bringing him shopping anymore. And I'm still not going to wear the damn mask. And so I went shopping on my own, but I did it fewer and fewer times. And I learned a strategy. Cause in the beginning, I would try to explain my rights. I have a medical note. Here it is. And this and this. And they didn't care. They were like, oh, you just stay away from me, and I didn't want to use Instacart because, again, I love food preparation. I'm going to pick my own produce. And so I had to learn. What worked for me was I stopped making eye contact, because the minute you make eye contact with somebody in the store, it's almost like they were obligated to say something to you, like, oh, you have to wear a mask in here. So I learned I would barrel in with my cart or a basket, and I would just pick my stuff. I wouldn't look at anybody, no eye contact, because I found that a lot of employees finally just didn't really want to say anything anyway. And if they could pretend that they didn't see me and I didn't see them, I got away with it. So I would shop. I would show up in the grocery line. I would keep my head down. I would unload my stuff. I'd be looking down, and I'd wait for my stuff to be rung up. And when I finally stuck my card in or whatever I did, I would then look up and say, thank you. And I'd get the hell out of there. So I'm grateful to those cashiers who looked the other way and the employees that didn't go out of their way to harass me, because I didn't want to go in their space and be like, yeah, here I am, big and bold, in your way. I just wanted to get my freaking groceries and get out of there. So there were places I could go. And I also documented. Some of the encounters were so atrocious. I started documenting because people were getting harassed left and right. And I thought, we have got to remember these times. And I'll tell you, when I look back at those old videos and pictures, I'm blown away how bad it was. It was so bad. It's like childbirth. We forget the pains, right? It was bad. So these videos for me, again, are a timestamp and a memory that I still go down memory lane from time to time to remember just how bad things were. It was awful and shocking. And so now what I try to do is I try to look, now that I've noticed patterns and trends, and I know that we're up against, again, this adversarial system that actually wants to cause harm. They want to cause harm. They want you to be in fear so you can't think critically. And they want to hurt us and guide us. And now, as you know, I'm sure it's much more than just COVID. That was one of the many catalysts. 9/11 was one thing to take away our rights, right? The demolition of the two towers, right? Inside job, I'm sure. And Building 7, what happened? I started learning about all of these things after 2020. And that was when I also went back to the whole chemtrail thing. And now at this time, 2020 through 2022, I would say, I had friends say to me, don't talk about the chemtrails. Don't question the shape of the earth. Don't question any of that, because you're so good at talking about the jabs and the issues with the vaccines, you're going to lose your audience. And so I didn't pursue talking about geoengineering and the things I was learning, because I wanted to be able to impact people, to help give them, tools to resist. But then we relocated again. So in 2022, we moved out of Santa Cruz. It became unbearably expensive. It was like, I call it Satan Cruz. It was such a dark period of my life. People were so insane. Aside from the friends that I made that I love dearly to this day, we all sort of spread out and moved on because you get tired, right? But moved to the mountains to be closer to my sister, because it was either we're going to get out of California or we're getting out of here. We're going to be close to my sister. So I have family here, which is amazing. She has a daughter and I have a son. And I love it because I'm in this conservative rural county. Everyone, wants to be left alone. They're huge supporters of the Second Amendment. I came around to the Second Amendment in 2021. I went, okay, now I get it. Thanks, guys, with your big trucks and your thank you, guys. Because I used to be sort of on the other side. It was like, who needs guns? I was like, oh. Yeah. So now I'm a proud Second Amendment owner. I'm all tooled up and I'm ready to go if I need to defend my home. I love it. And but I came out here to the mountains and I decided, because I was looking at all the other things that were toxic. Like you hear about they're going to put the mRNA in food. They're vaccinating the salmon, for God's sake, right? They're vaccinating all these animals. They're dropping vaccines for wildlife. They're intentionally. So it became so clear that this is they want to make us sick and they want to control us. And I decided I'm going to start a garden. So as I came out to the mountains, we got this beautiful property in the mountains. And it's peaceful, it's lush, there's nature. So I've been healing since getting here. But as I'm out in my garden, building planter boxes, learning how to set up and figuring out how I want to do this, I'm watching the skies again. And guess what? It's just as bad out here, if not worse, than Santa Cruz. Like Santa Cruz is hit up pretty hard. This place is so, we get hit very hard. So I decided I am done not talking about this. And I don't care if I lose, credibility. It's time to put this on the table because I'm sick of the lies. I don't care what anyone thinks anymore. I had been doxxed when I lived in Santa Cruz. Okay, they knew my name. They called out my family and threw me under the bus. And at that point, I was like, it's time to put this on the table. So I started a Telegram channel called California Chemtrails, which I thought was catchy. And I really just wanted people to feel comfortable observing, taking pictures. I was like, take take pictures in the morning, afternoon, evening. Let's kind of swap information and find out, like, what do you see over on the coast? What do I see in the mountains? And this then grew and flourished. And I learned so many more things. We're all sharing information about this stuff now. And it was amazing. It was a small group, a couple hundred people, like 100 people, then a couple hundred. And over time, I then learned in my own county that there was a 30 plus year long cloud seeding operation that had been happening over my county. Nobody in my county knew about it because, by the way, I talk fast and I talk a lot. So if you need to ask a clarifying question or pull me back in, you may.
You're doing great. I love it. Keep going.
So I learned that they have this NOAA library. NOAA is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Weather Modification Library. Okay. And by the way, NOAA has it on their own website that they were celebrating 70 years of seeding hurricanes, right? So you start to find out that these agencies, and as you probably know, Dane Wigington was really wonderful at getting this out there, forest fires as a weapon, right? Military has been interested in managing weather and controlling and destruction, like the Vietnam War, and denying water to Cuba, right? Making it rain before the rain got to Cuba. And we've used weather as a means to control people already for a very long time. We just haven't really been informed about all the ways they're doing it. Well, something that they can do is induce drought, is what I found out. And so California has been in this drought, right? They were like, we're in a drought. There was all these wars over water, which is what they want. And then, oh no, let me close this. I'm sorry. Did I lose you? Oh no.
No, you're still there.
Oh, good. Okay.
You're still good.
And so when I discovered that so I went on the NOAA library and discovered that they had been seeding our skies over my county to benefit a water company, a powerful, it's called the Turlock and Modesto Irrigation District. They control dams, they control power and electricity, and they have been cloud seeding to benefit their power, right? Water and power. And you also find out that PG&E has been doing weather modification for decades and decades as well. They like to, manipulate the water for their purposes as well. And what struck me was, if they're able to do this, how can you justify a drought? How can we even talk about climate change when you find out that they can be denying rainfall? And then when you deny rainfall long enough, you dry up the land. And then when you decide to flood it out, you just dump it. You create a dump situation and there's flooding. We've all seen this now. I've now come to recognize that we are up against, I firmly believe this, weather warfare. I'm 100% there. And when NOAA likes to say that they stopped seeding hurricanes, I highly doubt that. And I'm newer to the NEXRAD stuff, but the NEXRAD towers are managed by the U.S. Air Force, which I find highly interesting. And you find out that there are ways they can manipulate weather with frequency. I've learned about, I reached out to a woman in Colorado that was using she was modifying weather via electromagnetic means. And I reached out to her and said, hey, I'm just curious, how do you do this? And she told me eventually, after prying, because she said she works for the private sector. So the aerospace industry, she was getting some funding from the US Treasury. I was like, ooh, I'm onto something here. And she admitted to me she was using cyclotrons, which are particle accelerators. And you have the International Atomic Energy Association, I think it's IAEA, don't quote me there, I can find it. And they have, over 1,000 or so cyclotrons everywhere. And, I don't know how this all fits together or works. There's not much literature out there on cyclotrons modifying weather, but this was private stuff. And I dug and pried, and she said, well, I can't really share some of this with you, but then I developed a rapport. And unfortunately, I had been sharing my findings on a couple of Telegram groups that I thought these leaders were in favor of stopping geoengineering. And I'm finding out there are a lot of people in this game that pretend to be the freedom leaders that are actually there to, I think, herd the people, gain their trust, and then misdirect them. So after
Really?
Absolutely. Huh?
Is there anybody in the game that 1,000%?
That's always hard to say. Here's what I'll tell you. I have strong suspicions, and I've spoken about why. So let me just speak to it this way. You can never say 1,000%, right? I'm not.
You don't have to say their names, but can you tell me?
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. So as you are all aware, there has been this kind of an awakening, this shift happening, right? People are starting to notice. States are starting to recognize that geoengineering is a thing, right? So this now people are starting to go, oh, and all the naysayers are going, well, maybe it is something, right? Well, now the narratives that's coming out and becoming sort of more, I'm seeing it kind of more and more. It's not covert geoengineering. It's all the commercial flights. You just weren't informed, but all the commercial flights are really what are dimming the sun, which is complete bunk. Yeah. And then
they've been saying that though for 20 years.
And listen, just create pollution. Cars create pollution. I don't deny that. Yes, every time you fly, you're polluting the sky. Every time you drive, you're polluting the air. But what's happening, in my strong opinion, and Dane would say this himself, and you can even see countries that show their, their own Air Force with the canisters, the big tanks that they put into their C-130s, and they're spraying their environment, their country, themselves. What I believe is that our military and the private sector have been doing this. They have special nozzles. They have the canisters, which some people will say, oh no, those are just ballast tanks to balance the airplane for test flights when they're trying out a new aircraft. I call baloney on that. All you have to do, and I could pull this up, you look to the Malaysian U.S. Air Force and you look at those C-130s, which C-130s in the United States, they currently spray for fires, but they also spray the populace with highly toxic adulticides. Those are organophosphate pesticides. They call it adulticides. Isn't that a joke? Adulticides, right?
Yeah, I thought you were just making a joke right there.
No, that's literally what they're called.
Wow.
Oh, I can go into, listen, I mean, I can talk for 10 hours to you. On my Substack, I have a lot of passions and a lot of interests. I talk about the adulticide spraying they've been doing under the guise of protecting us from mosquitoes. I get into the releases of genetically modified mosquitoes by companies like Google's, Google is under Alphabet Inc., right? Yeah. Alphabet Inc. used to have Google Life Sciences. Well, then that name turned to Verily Life Sciences, and they were releasing millions upon millions of mosquitoes in Texas, California, and Florida back in 2017 and 2018 called their Debug Project. Those were Wolbachia, or a bacteria-infected mosquitoes, under the guise of, we want to, kill off some mosquitoes. In the event that disease becomes problematic, well, what you find is that then the mosquitoes are out of control. And then everyone's like, oh my God, we got to get rid of these mosquitoes. And then lo and behold, here comes biotech company out of the UK named Oxitec. And Oxitec has genetically modified these mosquitoes with a self-limiting gene. And they're heavily funded, by the way, partnered with the Wellcome Trust. You know the Wellcome Trust?
No.
And oh God, look at double L, WELLCOME, Whitney Webb. Look for her discussing the Wellcome Trust. You'll see it's like that's another family. Sir Henry Wellcome, the big pharma, everything else. Then you have Bill Gates funding Oxitec, and but with a lot of money. And Oxitec modifies moths, worms, and mosquitoes, and they're trying to expand all of their genetically modified insects throughout the world. And their goal is to expand throughout the United States. And so here's where I see problem, reaction, solution, because here's what I learned. Sorry, I'm segueing into this. I have to cover this because this is important for anyone that's not heard this.
I love this. Don't even.
Right. Oxitec did some releases. They did it in the Grand Caymans and they did it in Brazil and India, 2016. Okay, roughly 2016, 2017. And again, it was like couched under we want to eliminate the insects that the mosquitoes that cause disease. Well, what they find out, is that the genetically modified ones actually mated with the native ones, and it's like these little hybrids emerge, right? And they're not necessarily getting better, right? So, and of course, when they do their studies, they do a study and then they cut off the end of the study right when it starts to look good. Like maybe the numbers initially decline a little bit, but then you go, whoop, you come back, and guess what? Within 2 years of the releases in both Brazil and India, the rate of dengue shot up 600% in both countries. But don't worry, because BARDA and DARPA, our benevolent military industrial complex, are funding Moderna to create mRNA vaccines for all of these horrific mosquito-borne diseases. So I see this I like to say circle jerk of military, banking, tech, pharma, billionaires, NGOs, and government all working together, and they create a problem so that they can say, oh, well, here's a solution that we'd like to offer you, right? So, oh, your disease is going up, and then people then automatically, of course, they're like, well, yeah, do something about these mosquitoes. And then what they discover when it's too late, of course, is that, yeah, oh, I know, I saw this too. Isn't that awful? So
there's a video that I posted about the lab where they're genetically modifying these mosquitoes. I think in either Colombia. I think it was in Colombia.
San Diego.
Can you look up genetically modified mosquitoes in Colombia? They like talk about it like it's a great thing.
Oh, yeah. They all talk about it like it's a great thing because they're selling this as an effort to protect public health. And I saw the writing on the wall years ago when I learned about what because they were releasing in Florida. And I was like, and then I started looking into the company because I was really turned off by Bill Gates because he was involved in so many things to do with, anyway, there was a lot of layers to Bill Gates. And I was noticing that his name was linked in with so many of the, when I read legislation, I follow the tax forms of the NGOs. Those are money laundering operations, nothing more. Because NGOs are where the billionaires can set up multiple NGOs. Family members have NGOs. And then they give money to each other. And it's all a tax write-off for them, right? So they might be worth 30 billion, but really they're only worth 6 billion because the remaining billions are in their NGOs, which are all tax write-offs. It's all protected. And that's what they do. And they all fund each other for their little global good projects, like we're going to dim the sun and we're going to go to net zero together. We're going to do the global carbon capture and storage, which is a whole other scam we can talk about too. Yeah. Scam. Bill Gates is funding. I'm going to just say it. Bill Gates is also funding a company out in my county right now called Kodama Systems, Inc. They use remote controlled, people can work from home, remote controlling these semi-autonomous skidders in hard to reach areas to cut down the trees. And guess what they're doing with those trees? They're trucking them to Nevada and they're burying them in earthen vaults to store that harmful carbon. And then they're selling carbon credits back to the big polluting corporations like Meta, Alphabet, Stripe, so that they can say, hey, we might be big polluters, but we're carbon neutral because we paid to offset our carbon emissions. Meanwhile, guess what happens? The mom and pop businesses and the individuals like you and me have to pay higher taxes or pay more for our emissions because we can't afford to buy off our carbon credits, right? That's how they do it. This is the great take, the great squeeze through multiple tentacles, ways. Anyway. Yeah. We were talking mosquitoes, and then we went to carbon. But
well, in 2019, when did they dump mosquitoes in California, in Southern California? Do you know?
2017.
What was that?
2017.
Yeah, so like 2018, 2017, 2019 was the only time in my whole life. I've lived in Southern California my whole life, LA, Orange County. I never had to have itching cream with me all the time. Me and my wife were getting tortured by mosquitoes. It was a big deal. Like mosquitoes, it was a thing. Like you had to deal with mosquitoes. You had to get we just wanted to play catch outside with my son. Yeah. We had to bring out the mosquito candles. We had to bring the mosquitoes. They would attack the shit out of you. My wife would send me pictures of like 9 welts on her arm and on her leg. And, I got bit 9 times. And if you didn't have itching cream, you couldn't sleep. You had to have, I would wake up and if I run out of itching cream, I'd go to, the 24-hour CVS just to get itching cream. But you know what? Over the last 4 years, no itching cream. I don't need it. I haven't been getting bit at all.
Oh, interesting.
So they haven't been dumping mosquitoes over the last few years, but they did, like you said, 2017, 18, 19.
Yes.
Oh man, it was like part of my life.
That was Alphabet, Verily Life Sciences. But now, so the Oxitec.
So here it is. Here's the one in Colombia.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's connected to.
Hi, I'm Scott O'Neill here in Medellin, Colombia today, and I'm at the world's biggest mosquito factory for the World Mosquito Program. We're making in here 30 million mosquitoes a week. Come and have a look. We're doing it for a very serious reason. Cities like Medellin have suffered from diseases like dengue, Zika, chikungunya for decades, but not anymore. We've been able to bring the solution of Wolbachia mosquitoes to this city. When and this bacteria called Wolbachia gets introduced into the mosquito, it stops their ability to transmit dengue. We release mosquitoes that have Wolbachia, and then they go and mate, and Wolbachia gets passed into the wild mosquito population. If we're going to control these diseases in all the tropical cities of the world, it's going to require a lot of mosquitoes. The mosquito life cycle starts with the egg, and in this room, we've got a lot of eggs. Each one of these strips, these tiny black dots, are up to 10,000 mosquito eggs. Across all of these strips, about 1.5 million dried eggs waiting to hatch. In this tray, we've got the newly hatched eggs. They're little larvae, so small you can hardly see them. They're going to sit in here for a few days and eat and get bigger until they look like these ones over here. They're starting to turn into pupae. We're wanting to do the next step of sorting the males from the females. We want to do that so we can manipulate the sex ratio in the cages to be more female than male. The bottom ones along here are the boys, and the ones at the top are the girls. They're bigger. From here, they're going into the adult cages. We have adults that we continuously grow in what we call our brood stock. And then over here, we have the mass-produced mosquitoes getting ready to give us the eggs to go out directly into the field. It's crazy how they sound. You might wonder, what do we feed all these mosquitoes here? Well, I can tell you, we've got the good stuff in here. On the top shelf, literally, we've got the blood. They love it. Once the mosquitoes are grown, they're ready to go out into the field. The first way is to get the eggs and package them in a gelatin capsule with food. Voila. There's 300 eggs in here and enough food for the mosquitoes to be able to grow. They just need to be dropped in water. The other approach is to take the adults themselves. Here we have 300, and they can be released off the back of a motorbike. Or even packaged into a drone for aerial release. Over half the world's population is currently suffering or at risk of contracting these diseases. We have a solution, and our goal is to scale and deliver it to communities around the world that need it.
It's so ridiculous. It almost seems
that's Bill Gates. Bill Gates YouTube.
That's the Welcome Trust.
So you know.
Look up
that's
the
Bill
Welcome
Gates
Trust.
YouTube. It's so ridiculous. It almost seems like a Tim and Eric like sketch, like just bizarre comedy. Because like they're doing all this to combat people dying from mosquito bites. Like how it's like they're like, oh, you know what? People are dying of great white attacks. We're gonna genetically modify millions of great white sharks and just dump them in the ocean. And then when they breed with the other ones, they're gonna sterilize them. Like,
it's so ridiculous. No, it's so, and the irony for me was the self-limiting gene, right, of Oxitec. This one's the Wolbachia. Again, when you think though about, so interestingly, the Wellcome Trust, again, funded this, right, heavily with Bill Gates. But you have to remember, these are pharmaceutical connected people, right? They're all in with pharma. And what you realize is that, what was I going to say about Bill Gates? Oh, yeah. So he's obviously interested in making mosquitoes little vaccinators. Do you really think he's trying to eliminate disease when he's invested so heavily in mRNA and vaccines? No. I mean, like, use your common sense, right? Yeah. So when they do these so-called benevolent, it's to protect public health, you know it's a lie. I mean, it's all inversion. I'm learning more and more. It's like we're up against like Satanists here.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, it really is. It's never been about health. Like I think when you look into every vaccine's got its own movie, its own documentary on how every all of them. I think their vaccines were never designed to do what they say that they're going to do. I think they're just designed to injure us. So they, like you said earlier, to have customers flood. It's in their best interest to keep the masses weak and to keep them sick. It's in their best interest. Why they don't care about health? If they cared about health during the scamdemic, they, instead of shutting down gyms and parks and the beaches, they would have shut down all fast food. It was so easy It was so easy for them to just put out a tweet. Like they would just, like the city would put out a tweet. Guess what? Monday starting at 8 a.m. No fucking more movie theaters. No more clubs. Like they could have easily just said, hey, starting Monday, 8 a.m. No more In-N-Out. Well, In-N-Out's good. I like In-N-Out. No more McDonald's. No more Jack in the Box. Carl's Jr. All that shit should have been closed. They should have had like the sections in the supermarket, like the cereal section. That shit should have been taped off. Like you're not allowed to go into the cereal section. If it was about health. If it was about health, they would have done that.
Well, we all know. I mean, I think, everyone knows this. They, to deny the beaches and the parks to the children and families. We have officers patrolling the damn beaches on their ATVs. Give me a break. Just leave us alone. So that is what lit a fire under my butt. And that's why I'm so damn outspoken. So I'm at the point now where when people are talking about measles today, they're like, oh, measles. I'm like, I'm over that, man. I mean, like, moving on. There's other stuff happening right now. I mean, we can still argue over how much harm the condom vaccines caused. I get it. Let's just accept. Yes, we know they caused harm. I don't know why we keep remain in our echo chambers. It's time to move on, see what's coming, and make sure that they don't fool us for the next round, for the next pandemic, for the next scam. So I've been keeping my eyes on all the scenarios, right? The monkeypox scenario that they had, it was a different name, and I could send you a link to the full PDF. Literally, the month that they said that monkeypox would suddenly emerge was the same month, like a year before, that is when suddenly the media is like, oh, monkeypox. I mean, it's such a joke. And you realize that there's the SAARI scenario. They talk about how can we get influencers, to help bring people back because they recognize that the Corovax isn't safe for this pandemic. Corovax, coronavirus, it's like so too many. It's almost, that's where I've been kind of on this spiritual journey too. It's like, why are they playing with us this way? They're like playing a psychological game, and they know what's coming, and they're telling us, and it's in your face, and there's revelation of the method. You see movies have been telling you, sometimes they're giving you hints about what they're doing. It's like mockery, right? Adulticides. Come on. So, by the way, my pilot confrontation with the cloud seeding pilot was not my first. I drove out a couple of hours to the Sacramento airport to confront an adulticide spraying pilot. And I have all of that recorded as well. And I went to him with a printout of all the harms. All of the harms of the active ingredient in dibrom. So Naled, I always am like tomato. Naled is the active ingredient in this product called dibrom. And when I spoke with him, he was like, oh, well, we calibrate. By the way, they send out planes, and the planes are flying strategically in this sort of a pattern, right? They're covering this area at 400 to 500 feet above an area. They have been spraying over protected ecological reserves for birds. You wonder why people think there are dying birds. It's not because of West Nile. It's because they're getting sprayed with poison. Then they're killing our bees.
What I think is probably the best knee slice in the game. It's called a Row Drag. Super simple, awesome combo. Before we get to the truck, throw a little pass on top of that. You know what I mean? So we're gonna get really good at that truck transition. How about you get really ninja with the Row Drag? The knee slice. Push them down, butterfly, boom, bam, boom. Here. 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 And then the fishnet, knee to the stomach, low the handle, break the frames, and then boom. Pull this out, grab my forearm, pop, pop. That's all the best shit from Twister Side Control right there in one throw. You guys want to go back and forth a little bit? Ready? Let's go.
You know about the bee die-offs right now, right? I mean, all the bees and the issues that beekeepers have with bees. You kill off bees, you kill the food supply. Isn't that convenient? So they're spraying farms, they're spraying ecological reserves, bird sanctuaries, they're spraying over schools, and it's like, they sprayed right next to the a big Foster Farms turkey and chicken farm. I document all of this, so I have videos. If anyone wants to just go through my videos and watch. You'll see as I'm discovering, I'm sharing the things I'm finding. Also, because there's so much that I'm learning and my brain gets full, I have to slap it down. Like all the stuff I'm processing, I slap it down, I make a video, and then I can go to sleep at night, right? Because it's so much betrayal, so many of the same patterns. So that is why I am done waiting. we have been promised. So back to the, people, here's what I'm finding. As people now are awakening to this geoengineering stuff, enter the grifters and the sharks. We're going to start fundraising. We're going to stop these chemtrails. Donate today. We've got a plan. Well, I fell for one of those, okay? And I believed that they were somebody that was standing for what was right. And then I started watching. So what I find these organizations sometimes do is they bring in the people that have a lot of heart and grit and energy. I feel like I was used for a couple of years to help build somebody else's platform. I did the rain testing, as you'll see in that documentary. Sean can tell you, I tested my rain. I was getting engaged. I had correspondence with our air regulatory agencies. I was doing the hard work. I was doing the research. I was trying to get answers. And so all my energy I was sharing on somebody else's platform. And then they were promising everyone they would be getting a lawsuit, okay? That never came to fruition. It was like one tactic after the next. Oh, well, now we're going to do this. Oh, well, now we're going to do this. Oh, now if you pay another fee, we can do this. And that was ultimately what led to I became so frustrated. And then I watched lies happening where they said, we're going to have a lawsuit by the spring. And I knew that wasn't true because I knew about an internal breakup of the attorney. I knew that this person that was raising money was also using the same attorney to fight her own legal battles. And so I confronted this person on my own. I said, you cannot lie to these people. You don't have an attorney. You need to let them know you lost your attorney and that you need to find a new one. And after some time, I finally just parted ways completely. And what's very interesting is that I also was so frustrated with the system that that's what led to my confrontation in the middle of the night with the cloud seeding pilot, because I'm so done. And I'm so tired of that. I've been strung along. We've all been strung along. We've all been given promises. Oh, there's going to be a task force. Oh, we're going to do this. Make it happen already. There needs to be a moratorium on all weather modification, geoengineering research, period, because they're doing this under they're couching this as research. You've got the Department of Interior, the Bureau of Reclamation. They had Project Skywater forever, okay? They're manipulating water. You've got the Department of Energy is invested in this. The California Energy Commission is paying for precipitation enhancement, right? And here's my big beef is that everyone's like, well, cloud seeding is pretty benign. It's just silver iodide. No, it's not. They are not being transparent about their MSDS sheets. And when you dive into enough documentation, like there was the Santa Barbara Twitchell Reserve, they talked a lot about that project. They had like a CEQA document. The flares, I learned about the flares there, and the flares contain mostly aluminum powder and zinc. And then you've got some silver iodide and ammonium perchlorate and all this other stuff. And I went, no wonder there was aluminum in my rain samples. Now, where's the titanium coming from? Because I had copious amounts of titanium. What the heck is that from? Come to find out, the United Arab Emirates, which you saw had all this flooding that was like kind of loosely linked to their cloud seeding operations. They're using all sorts of methods, drones and all sorts of stuff. But they use titanium dioxide nanoparticles. Has anyone looked into how good that is for your health to be breathing these in? When you're breathing in nanoparticulates of heavy metals like aluminum and titanium and zinc and copper, that makes it more bioavailable. Inhaling it, that small of a particle, is not good for you. So there's a period where you are breathing it in. And then once the rain brings it down, it's going into the soil. It's going into your water. And I found out that my own California Air and Resources Board are clueless. And all they're focused on is carbon capture and becoming net zero by 2030. And so they're just worried about capturing carbon and how can we protect ourselves from carbon. But they're ignoring that we have heavy metals that have been dumped on us time and time again based on outdated environmental impact reports. So I know this is a mouthful for a lot of people. Again, I cover all of these things that I've touched on in my Substack, in my BitChute. And if anyone has questions, I do tutorials on how, I'm tracking flights in the sky. I have learned so much. I mean, you're like, oh my God, this woman's going to blow my head off. I have learned so much.
I used to be the chemtrail guy. I don't know if you know this, but
I didn't know that.
I was the one on Joe Rogan's podcast. Did you know that or you didn't know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, like my name is synonymous with chemtrails. Like, I'm on Joe Rogan's podcast and just getting crucified because Joe Rogan was, he was not into it. So he was like, dude, you live by an airport. Those are just regular planes. Those are just regular contrails. Mm-mm. So
he'll have to flip. It's undeniable.
You've seen he's coming around now. You've seen
John Brennan. Hibbler, can you put that up? John Brennan at CFR
yes,
in
I have.
2016?
Yes.
Yeah, that was huge. That was huge, right?
And if you want to play it here, people haven't seen it. It's fantastic. I don't know if you've covered it before, but
we play it all the time, but we can't play it enough. It's only 2 minutes, but
you got it.
When the head of the CIA, the director of the CIA is in like making a speech about geoengineering. He's called it stratospheric aerosol injections. Everybody got to watch this.
Is the array of
Just the 2-minute one?
Often referred to collectively as geoengineering.
Oh yeah, rewind it a little bit. That's perfect. That's a perfect. Rewind it and turn it up. There we go.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly.
Oh, it is an expense.
As promising as it may be, moving forward on SAI would also raise a number of challenges for our government and for the international community. On the technical side, greenhouse gas emission reductions would still have to accompany SAI to address other climate change effects, such as ocean acidification, because SAI alone would not remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. On the geopolitical side, the technology's potential to alter weather patterns and benefit certain regions of the world at the expense of other regions could trigger sharp opposition by some nations. Others might seize on SAI's benefits and back away from their commitment to carbon dioxide reductions. And as with other breakthrough technologies, global norms and standards are lacking to guide the deployment and implementation of SAI and other geoengineering initiatives. Now, I could go on and on and on and on about the things that fascinate me, but rather than talk about them, I thought I'd stop here and start the conversation with Judy, and then I can take some...
Yeah, isn't that disgusting?
That's just, that's 2016.
Yeah.
So they've been doing it forever. But starting at 2016, you can say at least that's 9 years ago. So at least for 9 years, you can't deny it. This guy's admitting it. The head of the CIA. What do you have to do with climate change? Aren't you supposed to stop the spread of communism internationally? Isn't that your job? Like, why are you worried about the weather?
It's all about control. I've talked about this too. They have literally referred to the global deployment of these sorts of interventions, the solar radiation, SRM, as needing to be, with great effort. And they had a footnote. And this is like a multiple hundred pages, a few hundred pages document from the National Academies Press. Okay, this is like the globalist think tank. It's like sciences, engineering, and medicine. And they have their little meetings. And I sign up for their email alerts to get the updates on the things that they're looking into and talking about. So you sort of get an idea of like, I like to look ahead, right? And see like, what's the trend? Where are they going with some certain things? And so, and that's when they referred to this, it needing to be like the Manhattan Project. It is so clear to me that there are people that know what's happening, and then they have it so compartmentalized that there are many people who are participating and probably have no clue, or they're not told, or it's above their pay grade, but they have NDAs, right? So it's clear to me they've been doing it. It's undeniable. And only now are they starting to admit that, we've been modifying, making it rain, precipitation enhancement for decades and decades. That's finally coming out. And that's, and so I'm ready for there's an awakening happening, and I'm so disheartened by some of the very prominent voices that we have learned to trust over the years, who are now trying to say, well, we need to fly less to see the stars by 2050. Well, that happens to fit in line with the disgusting carbon capture biomass scam. Have you noticed that kind of gaining momentum for the last 10 years? Now they want resilient forests. It's always couched under resilient. They're thinning 70 million acres out in our area right here, as you know, California, Oregon, Washington, to say, make our forests resilient. And they're doing all of these carbon capture and storage programs. And guess who's behind all the carbon capture and storage programs? Transnational companies, Rockefellers, big oil, big governments. It's a brand new market they've created. So all of these carbon capture and storage projects, it's like, it's just money for them. They don't care. They don't care if they're going to ruin an ecosystem. They don't care if the pipeline's going to destroy habitats. They just, it's a new game, and it's a shell game. And they can say it's greener, it's more sustainable, it's more resilient, and people are lapping it up. And so, so it's so many scams that are happening right now around this.
It's just like the recycling scam. Like,
the Rockefellers spent $50 million for several years to convince people that don't stop buying plastic. In fact, buy more plastic. Just make sure you wash it out and you look at the little numbers underneath and you stick it in your little cans, and we're going to recycle it. And no, it was all shipped to China and India. We made them our dumping grounds.
Yeah, but they still get subsidized. They still get paid. So it's like it's a good business to start a recycling company. We're gonna collect all your bottles, like just bury them and throw them in the ocean, and you get paid. It's more profitable to not do shit as opposed to actually put those plastic bottles through the process of actual recycling. That's too expensive. They're like, fuck it, just throw them away, and they get paid anyways.
Well, and the problem is people contaminate their recycling containers. I actually, to this day, and I don't have to do this, but I do it, I bring all of our bottles and our cans to the local recycling buyback center in California. I'm not joking. I'll make like $15 to $20, and that's a latte or two, right? I mean, if you want to treat yourself to something. So I still do that to this day. I sort my own stuff and I bring it in. So I'm still kind of nerdy in that way. Like, I do still think it's worth reusing what you can, they lied to everybody so that people, instead of just consuming less plastic or bringing paper bags or their own reusable jars, people were buying more plastics, thinking, well, at least I'm recycling, so I'm doing my part as I throw away my dirty yogurt container and everything else, right? And that was all being trucked. That was trash.
Hibbler, can you find a video of like a quick little video explaining the recycling scam? Because what they did is, like, there was people that had their recyclables like tracked, like they had some GPS on it, and they followed it, and like, yo, they're not doing shit with it. They're just like throwing it in the dump.
I was supposed to.
Do you know they're grinding up trash apparently and feeding it? They can add ground up trash to feed, to make feed for some of our farm animals.
Okay, here it is. Let's watch this.
Oh, sweet. Thank you.
Hey, I was supposed to jump out of this to kind of scare you, but it turns out that's funnier on paper than it is in practice. So I hope you don't mind too much. Boy, I got a lot of plastic here, and don't worry, I'm gonna be putting it in a recycling bin because I'm not a sociopath or some kind of libertarian. But here's the thing. Most of this plastic will end up in a landfill or burned or in the ocean. And that's because most plastic is not recyclable. Oh, but it's got the recycling symbol right on it. This is the recycling symbol created in 1970. And this is a resin identification code created by the plastics industry in 1988 to trick people into thinking plastic was recyclable and therefore may be okay for the environment. Plastic recycling is a lie to sell more plastic. I'm Raleigh Williams, climate science grad student and guy who couldn't find a men's jumpsuit that fit him, but a women's jumpsuit is actually kind of working for him. And to have little slumber parties where they shared their plastic making secrets. And the modern plastic industry was born. Also, Brad totally has a crush on you.
Oh my God, no he doesn't.
Yes, he does, he told me. He told me. Since plastic is made out of oil and natural gas, plastic companies sprang out of existing fossil fuel corporations and their hot cousins, the chemical industry. And the nightmare lobby industry group, the Society of the Plastics Industry, was born. And I'm pretty sure that's the last we'll be hearing of them in this video about how the plastic industry scammed America. Anyway, it was their job to get the American consumer, a group of people who had never really bought plastic, to start buying a shit ton of plastic. Lucky for them, plastic kicks ass. Plastic was lightweight, cheap, it performed better than other substances, and it had the ungodly power of the fossil fuel industry behind it. Basically, plastics blew through America like measles at an anti-vaxxer water park. But when Americans were saving their plastic to reuse it, lobby groups just bought advertisements telling them, throw it out every time, we'll just make more plastic out of our unlimited, consequence-free supply of fossil fuels. And that's when plastics came up against their first big hurdle.
On April 22nd, 1 in every 10 Americans took part. The public outcry on that first Earth Day led to political action.
Well, that actually wasn't going to work for the plastics industry, but they had a compromise they felt would work for everybody. they'd lie. So the plastics industry, fossil fuel corporations, and a number of other companies formed a front group called Keep America Beautiful. They got an Italian guy, dressed him up like a Native American stereotype, and then shot this commercial.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country, and some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
I mean, yes, sure, they could have just easily made their products less disposable, but why do that when you can just spend a few $1 million on an advertisement to convince you it's your fault there's more trash everywhere? And it worked! For a while. See, the old depressed Italian maneuver got people to start throwing their trash in trash cans and even started some regional recycling programs. But when a louder call to end single-use items like plastic cropped up in 1987, the plastics industry decided it was time to take another trip to Scamville, where they were pleasantly surprised to find they were already the mayor. Okay, do you remember the Society of the Plastics Industry?
You want to watch the whole thing?
No, you could stop it there. You could stop it there.
This is fantastic. I'd like a link later, Sean, because that I've never seen that. It was beautifully, beautifully done. And for those who want to watch
You know what? Can let's just watch the rest of it. I want to see how it ends.
It's so great. And that's exactly how it works. It's like the same formula. They set up the alliance.
Oh my God, they're back? Wow. Well, anyway, they genuinely did want recycling to work. So they looked into it in the 1980s and discovered, to their horror, that plastic can't really be recycled. The same chemical properties that make it moldable and flexible also make it degrade after 1 or 2 uses. I mean, that's not a recycle, that's a re-loop-de-loop. But even worse than any of that, recycling is expensive and labor intensive, and making new plastic from fossil fuels is almost always cheaper forever. Plastic industry documents clearly concluded that there were no effective market mechanisms for mixed plastic, and that there is serious doubt that it can ever be made viable on an economic basis.
There was never an enthusiastic belief that recycling was ultimately going to work in a significant way.
I think they knew that the infrastructure wasn't there to really have recycling amount to a whole lot.
But even though they knew recycling had zero chance of stopping plastic from just f***ing the world, they knew that if they could get people to believe recycling worked, they might have a chance of stopping an actual plastic ban. You know what? I'm being too cynical. Do we have like a relevant clip I could roll right here?
If the public thinks the recycling is working, then they're not going to be as concerned about the environment.
Well, that's not good. But the old Society of the Plastics Industry had a plan. While most plastic could never be recycled, technically, some plastic could be recycled. So in 1988, they created a front group called the Council for Solid Waste Solutions, and they quietly lobbied nearly 40 states to pass legislation that required a symbol they created be printed on every single piece of plastic produced in America. Enter the Resin Identification Code. Officially, just a way to say what type of plastic the item is made out of. Now, to be clear, this is not a recycling symbol. See, the recycling symbol was public domain as of 1970, so the plastics industry just kind of borrowed it, stuck a number inside, and now it's a completely different symbol. What do you mean it looks like the recycling symbol? Don't you see the number inside? Of the 7 kinds of RICs, only 1s and 2s are commonly taken, and even they have a slim chance of actually being recycled. But the plastics industry has made sure that every single piece of plastic has a recycle symbol on it, except no they didn't, because that's not a recycle symbol. It's a resin identification code, because it's got a number.
If the public thinks the recycling is working, then they're not going to be as concerned about the environment.
So whenever the environmental movement would build up a head of steam, the plastic industry and fossil fuels would just pour millions of dollars into recycling campaigns until calls for plastic reduction died out. Then they just pull their funding and all the recycling initiatives collapse until it's time to promote recycling again. For all the millions of dollars spent touting the wonders of recycling, only 10% has ever been recycled. Well, damn, Daniel, what are we gonna do? Well, first of all, we gotta stop treating recycle like it's the Beyonce in the Destiny's Child of reduce, reuse, recycle. Beyonce is reduce, reuse, and recycle is the other two. Second, We gotta keep recycling. And I know, I just spent like 8 minutes shitting on recycling, but recyclers are the only people keeping that number at 10% and not 0%. In fact, any percent of a massive amount of plastic is still significant. And finally, we have to stop thinking about this like it's a problem we can solve with a quiet little choice at the grocery store. Legislation got us into this problem, legislation's gotta get us out. We gotta pressure our governments to pass a ban on single-use plastics. How bad is the problem? Great question. The plastic lobby has actually passed legislation preemptively banning plastic bans. That's right, it's a ban, and it's going to murder our planet if we can't get a hold of our legal system. It's gonna take a group of people working together, so please, be one of those people. In the description of this video is a
Okay.
Well,
you're gonna still recycle?
Well, I'm recycling the stuff that can be recycled, the aluminum cans and the glass bottles. That's it.
Okay.
They don't take anything else. But I mean, so I bring that in myself, and I'm watching them do the sorting there. But I didn't realize, the one thing I didn't know was that it was the resin label. I didn't realize that was a whole new piece for me. I knew there are articles that actually name the Rockefeller family behind the scam. So, and all their minions and puppets, but they're behind everything. I'm finding Rockefeller brothers, Rockefeller, this, and I've been researching the billionaires that are invested in these so-called green movements, and in the research for geoengineering, and it's the same players, and it's the billionaires, and it's these public-private partnerships, and it's disgusting.
I'm not gonna say all billionaires are bad. I'm a billionaire, and I think I'm a good guy.
I didn't know that. I love honesty. Yeah, that's great.
I'm a thousandaire. I'm a 10,000.
I'm a millionaire with my eggs. I have chickens too. So I'm so glad, because there was, as you know, all the egg shortages in California. Did you deal with that at all?
Yeah. I hear about the egg shortages, but we just pay more for them. Yeah, we still get them. We just
there's always a surcharge now on all the food. So I decided I'm hatching my own. They're all jab-free, thriving, amazing. And I'm like, we need to start raising eggs and growing our own food and trading on a hyper-local level if we're going to get through this.
Yeah, I'm down with that. Now, I know recently there. Or at least I heard that there's a couple states, I think Florida's one state and Tennessee is the other state, that banned chemtrails or geoengineering. I mean, is that real or is that fake?
Okay, I want to say this before I totally take a dump on it. I love that there are legislators out there that are finally admitting that this is happening, because for so long, nobody's acknowledged it. We were the crazy tinfoil hat wearing freaks, right? We were morons. We were stupid. How dare we? We're such idiots. We're whatever. So I am very thrilled. And I've talked to Monty Fritz, who's out of Tennessee. I mean, there are some people that are stepping up, and I am grateful. And I want to say thank you. I will say that it's the right step in that direction. It also, validates all of our concerns that we've had for a long time. It's like, okay, it's really happening. And to the naysayers out there, they're not going, oh, this is a thing, I wasn't aware. The problem is that the FAA regulates usually over 300 feet above the tallest building. That's the FAA's jurisdiction. So you actually can't really stop federal programs or even covert military private sector programs, unfortunately. Now, where they might have some strength would be at regulating who can land in their local airports. The states do have control over who can access their airports. Now, if you're military, though, you have a lot of leeway, and there's not a lot of people that will say no. So it's positive, but really at the end of the day, it's not really going to make a difference. I'm sorry to say that.
Well, if let's say in Florida, it passes and everyone's jumping up and down, right? But then you still see planes doing it. You don't think that's gonna?
No.
That's going to force people to take it to the next level and do what's necessary to stop it.
What's disappointing for me is that it's almost like things happen enough, because like the awareness again is gaining momentum. It's almost like the gesture has been made, like, oh, we're gonna address it, and it makes people think, oh, we can go home and we can go back to biking and having a great time and enjoying our lives and not staying, not observing and documenting, So no, it's that.
Can I say something on that, guys, real quick?
You may, yes.
Because I sat down in this film with Rep Monty Fritz, who is the main reason that he's the main sponsor as well of the geoengineering bill in Tennessee that got passed. So they're reintroducing a new bill in Tennessee, which I think Florida already copied the standards because the original bill in Tennessee was a $10,000 fine if you're caught spraying. Now, as we know, they already have a budget for fines. I mean, that's nothing. So what they tried to do, Tennessee, I don't know if it's passed yet or if it's going to be, but is to up that fine to 100,000. And I think that's what Florida's doing, is upping the fine to 100,000. Now, last thing I'll say, you're still going to see spraying because, again, $100,000 per fine. They got millions and millions in a budget for fines. Ask the vaccine companies about that.
Right. No, I know. And it's like a level of risk for them. The other thing, though, too, is that
last thing. If you think about it, it's the airspace, guys. It's federal airspace. I think above 5,000 fucking feet. So it doesn't matter if every state, in my opinion, got a geoengineering. I'm not trying to be negative, but if all 50 states said no more geoengineering, they could still spray every day because above 5,000 feet is considered federal territory. So there's only one entity that can stop actually geoengineering, and that's federal, unfortunately.
And here's why it's so important, I think, for all of us to be urging our elected leaders, Trump and Bobby Kennedy, to do something about this. And now I'm not, if I may just say, I'm not interested in we need more research, we need more observation. No. There is plenty of documentation and evidence out there. What they need to do is say, we are going to immediately cease, put a moratorium on all research related weather modification, full stop. Every university that's participating in the research, stop, or we'll cut you off. Every NGO that's paying for this, stop, or we'll fine you or shut you down or whatever. They can do this. We don't need to wait a few months until some month or some year when they might have figured out. No, just put a moratorium on all weather modification, all of it, until we can sit down and assess all the things that have been done for decades that have gone unmeasured. We don't even know the cumulative impacts of the ongoing cloud seeding that they've been doing with their mostly flare, aluminum in the flares, right? So it's run unchecked for too long. Then if they can't stop all of it because it's covert, like let's say it's military, CIA, private sector, it's hush hush, well, then they need to admit that to us. Like, this is above our pay grade, and actually this is a military thing, and we're not actually able to see or reveal who's behind it. Well, maybe then the people will know what we need to do. I mean, I just feel like something needs to happen immediately. I am so, just yesterday, right? A beautiful blue sky morning, and then just the most prominent, disgusting, dripping, spreading, radiating lines in the sky, and it ruined my day. And I hate to say that, but it does. People are pissed and they're tired of it. So just stop it until we can figure out what the hell's going on, and then go from there.
It sucks finding out that passing legislation like state to state is going to do. I thought, I was like happy about it. I'm like, oh, cool, no more chemtrails in Florida. But finding out that over 10,000 feet, it's all federal, fuck, that changes everything. So I was going to go on JRE and talk, just talk about what do we need to do per state. What is the process of getting a ban, a chemtrail ban, a geoengineering ban? What is the process, state to state? And let's do it state to state. But now, based on what Hibbler's saying and what you're saying, it's like that does nothing really. You got
it's the first thing is this: we do need the masses to be aware that this is even happening at all. So it's still so let's hang on to the positives here. It's still a positive thing that the states are at least admitting that this is happening and that they don't like it or don't want it.
Yeah.
But then we have to drill down into, okay, what are we really up against here? And so something I've been doing, I track the skies to find out who are the culprits. I follow the money, with the various organizations. They're doing this, covertly too, like the Marine Cloud Brightening Project off the USS Hornet in Alameda. They never notified the local reps that they were doing it. In fact, my own county supervisors were never notified about this decades-old cloud seeding over our heads to benefit the irrigation district down there, right? So it's going to take all of us, and I think this is how I've decided to approach it, because it can become so overwhelming and frustrating that this is all I can do. I can focus on what I can change in my own backyard. So I can hear the cloud seeders over me. That's something I can really focus on. I can notify everybody and tackle that. And then that's the best you can do. You can track flights. Then then get your neighbors in your community informed. And then you just need to start showing up and saying, damn it, why are we allowing this? With the smaller programs. And then the bigger programs, we need to put the pressure on Bobby and Trump and say, stop it all now. We don't have access to those federal programs. We want to know, Department of Energy is doing it. Department of Interior is doing it. Cut them off. We want you to, you've got Doge, right? Identify everybody that's been funding any of the weather modification research and cut them off. And tell the public what they've been doing. Full exposure, full transparency. We need to have a collective decision about what we do and don't want to do. They have not gotten our consent. And that's what makes me so freaking angry, is that you can choose what you put in your mouth. I don't care about your food dye rules. Yes, I want everything to be labeled, but I can choose what I put into my own mouth. But I can't choose what I am being sprayed with without my consent. I can't choose if I don't want the vaccine from the little mosquitoes that will eventually be little vaccinators. I can't decide. That's against my will. These are acts of war as far as I'm concerned. I want people to understand what's happening and get mad enough that we won't shut up about it. And we're going to be hounding Trump and Bobby every single day, tweet after tweet after tweet, letter after letter, call after call, hound them. And because they respond to that, they respond to public, en masse going, saying, we want you to deal with this. They'll be forced to figure something out. There's not enough of that pressure yet, I don't think. I think we've been placated by promises. So we feel like, something's happening. And the people that don't have the time, and I don't fault them, because by design, a lot of us have been forced into working to pay the bills, raising the family, don't have enough time to do anything but eat, sleep, poop, watch a little entertainment after a hard day at work. And that's it. I get it. That's why I pour myself into this, because I have been, thank my partner who supports me. This is the least I can do, is do the research and let you know what's really going on. And we need to get everybody engaged and involved.
Yeah, we sure do. I know Robert Kennedy III. I met him through business partners, and he tells me that his dad is, he's going to do his best to get rid of geoengineering, but
I really hope so.
Look at this. I mean, if he really posted that, if that's not a fake tweet.
Yeah. Oh, well, I saw that. Yes.
Apparently this is not fake.
It's real.
Well, here's the thing. This is my concern, gentlemen, because you know who you have now slipping his way into everybody, even in Monty Fritz's ear, is Jim Lee. I got to say, I'm just going to put that on the table. I'm going to say Jim Lee. Jim Lee tried to get Dane Wigington's website thrown off the internet years and years ago. I've learned a lot.
Who did? What's his name?
Jim Lee.
Who is that guy?
He is a guy that's out there now, almost like it. So I'm going to speak to how I feel and my own experiences.
He's been on Sam's show, Eddie.
Really?
Yeah, Jim Lee's been on Sam's show.
He has got a database to die for, okay? He has everything documented, and it's amazing. It's like a library. You're like, how could one man do this? I don't think he works alone. I've been in multiple meetings and conversations with this man, and I have learned a few things along the way. There is no room in his world for anything but what he says. And he speaks out of two sides of his mouth. He'll reference HAARP and NEXRAD, but if you listen long enough, he mocks it and says there's no way HAARP or NEXRAD could do anything. That's bullshit. Sorry, I'm just going to say it. Then he says, everybody's so afraid of every line in the sky. They're loaded with atmosphere. And he makes fun of people. He's very arrogant. But then he'll say people shouldn't be so afraid of every line in the sky. But then out of the other side of his mouth, he says, all the sulfur in the atmosphere from the jet pollution is going to kill you. So we need to fly less if we want to see the stars by 2050. He's the one who in his own Substack is now saying there's a solution. So you either fly less or we switch it to a biofuel. And the biofuel links into that whole carbon capture and storage, stump to pump, biomass, bio bullshit lie, and the sustainable aviation fuel goals of 2025. This is my frustration. This is the message that's now coming out of this massive awakening. We know that our skies are being manipulated, that they're sick. We've never seen anything like it. We're paying attention. It looks unwell. Our own intuition is screaming it to us, and we're being told it's just everyday commercial jet farts. That's insulting. It's called gaslighting. Yeah. Also, doesn't believe that Helene was natural. Believes that Helene was natural and that Maui was natural. I can't do that anymore. And when my video went viral, he tried to paint me as a violent extremist, basically. And so I addressed that. And so I think there are people that are now getting in the ears of our representatives and politicians who are saying it's not all the crazy chemtrail conspiracy theorists out there. Really, it's just a problem with the jet fuel and it's the commercial flights. And we have so many millions more flights every year now, and that's really what you're seeing. And I'm saying that just absolutely undermines all of the efforts of people like Rosalind Peterson and Dane Wigington and people that have done their research that can connect the dots and realize, just look at the other countries that are using the C-130s to modify their weather. I know without a doubt, it's in my heart and my gut, based on all the dots I've connected, that they've been doing this to us for a while. And now it's time for transparency on who's been doing it. And that's all I have to say. I'm not denying that commercial flights don't pollute, as I said, like cars and other things do. But what I'm saying is now the conversation is going to, it's all commercial flights. Well, what are the only two solutions that come out of that? One, you fly less. That fits in with the goals. Or two, you pay more for your emissions to fly, so that squeezes out a nice class of people, right? You can't travel as much, you're going to be confined to your little corner. Or three, you switch to the biofuel, which is backed by the way, as I said, Shell, Exxon, Rockefeller oil, gas companies. It's like a brand new market. And they don't even know if the biofuel is going to be any better at clearing the skies. They just know that we have to fast track this new sustainable aviation fuel by 2050, get all the airlines, the One World Alliance. They have the One World Alliance for the airlines now. They want everybody on this brand new biofuel to save the planet. Yet they don't really know if it's going to clear our skies. They just are directing us. It's a show game. It's a new market.
For all your 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu merchandise, please visit 10thplanetjj.com/shop. We also got a Look Into It t-shirt that just dropped. Thank you very much for your support.
There's some switcheroo. It's a joke. I had to say that. I'm sorry. I had to say that because I'm so frustrated because now I'm watching people saying, well, it's really all just the commercial flights. So, what are we gonna, and I'm just saying.
Have you got into jet fuel is fake? Have you got into that? That's a whole the jet fuel hoax. Have you looked into that?
I've heard that. No, I have not. What I've heard is that people say the fossil fuels is not really true. That they're actually the Earth renews fuels within, and we're.
Well, that's something different. Like
fossil
fuel.
You're saying jet fuel is fake, huh?
Not jet fuel is fake.
Okay.
But jets use very little fuel to take off, just to take off in one.
Compressed air. They use compressed air.
And Elon Musk talked about it on Joe Rogan's podcast. So people that think you're crazy, like Elon Musk, he's like, he was talking about, like Joe said, how are we going to get to Mars or whatever, like if you even believe that. But it doesn't matter whether you know that that's all fake or not. But what Elon said was like, Joe said something to the effect that, how much fuel would that take? It would seem like it would take an endless amount of fuel. And then Elon says, well, we would use air for fuel. And Joe goes, air? What do you mean? And he goes, yeah, compressed air. That's how you do it. He goes, compressed air? He goes, yeah, use air. So the theory, and there's videos on this.
I'm going to write that down.
There's videos on this.
I believe it. I'm open to everything.
The jet engines, once they get to a certain speed, the air that comes through them powers the plane.
Wow.
The air that comes through them powers the plane. Not because you think about how much liquid fuel. If you think about how much liquid fuel it would take to fly 300 people across the country, it would take, and like there's videos that do the math. I don't know if the math is right, but they're saying, dude, that would take like fucking a gigantic amount of fuel. Where are you gonna put that fuel? Where's the fuel at? Where does the fuel go into on the? I don't know. So the theory, the hoax is that jets have been flying with compressed air this whole time. Think about plane tickets. How come plane tickets haven't gone up in forever? It was $900 to go to Japan 25 years ago because I used to go to Japan every now and then. It's still the same price.
Really?
Plane tickets, you would think plane tickets based on and think about gas. Gas, like, it's expensive. It's $5 a gallon. It should be $40 a gallon. based on the inflation of everything else.
Yeah.
So that gets into another story. Hey, can you find Fletcher Pouty oil hoax? Look for that Fletcher Pouty, Pouty, oil. He explains that he was like, he used to like be like a Henry Kissinger crony, and he's being interviewed, and he said, oil is the second most abundant liquid on Earth. We're never going to run out of it. Listen to this. Listen to this guy.
That petroleum wasn't what we thought it was, that it wasn't a fossil fuel, that it didn't come from fossil animal.
Yeah.
Is it just a mineral? Is it a mineral like any other mineral? Is that how it, what would you say? What's the origin of
You see,
petroleum?
when they first found petroleum, because they were beginning to make motors and needed on axles of wheels on railroad trains and all that sort of thing, and remember, trains started in the beginning of the 19th century, then oil went from just a lubricant to a fuel, and it made it valuable. And Rockefeller happened to be the smartest man in the business at the time, but he made most of his money, or much of it, off the transport of the petroleum as well as selling it. But one thing they realized was, because oil is putting a price on oil is like putting a price on a pail of water. You know, no initial cost. It's in the ground, and in those days they were, some of it almost what you'd call surface mining the oil. They didn't go down deep. So in order to get the price up, they hit on the idea that they would have to make it appear to be scarce. That after we take the next few barrels out, we're probably going to have to close as well. You know, that kind of thing. Well, a very fortuitous event. In 1892, there was a convention in Geneva of scientists to determine what organic substances are. Well, the definition of organic is a substance with hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. And so it's usually a living substance, a tree. You analyze a dead tree, hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen, and grass, and so on, living things. Animals, we are hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. So at this Geneva Convention, Rockefeller took advantage of sending some scientists over who said, oil, petroleum, is hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. Therefore, it must be derived from the spoiling, the rotting of formerly living matter. And playing the game properly, when this scientific convention was over, they defined oil as the residue from formerly living matter. Well, that makes it a fossil fuel. I don't know why they decided to use the word fossil, but it says formerly living matter, it's fossil. Well, of course, today, and another thing we should know is that there has never been a fossil, a real fossil found below 16,000 feet. And you can't argue at 16,000 there's a level line, because someplace the ground sinks and so on. But 16 is what the scientists say, 16,000. We mine oil, or we drill for oil at 30,000, 33,000, 28,000 every day of the week. So right there, we rule it out that it isn't fossil fuel. It's called fossil fuel for the minds of the public to feel that it is an asset that is running out, being depleted. We talk about depletion allowance, which is a lot of, and actually, if you know the world's oil supply, you know that it is not going to run out for an awfully long time. It is the second most prevalent liquid on Earth. And we haven't begun to dig. Well, with all that background, you see, the people in charge of the petroleum business, for perfectly reasonable business things, like any other man in a business, wants to keep his price as high as he can get away with. And the way to do is just say, well, there's no more. The last barrel is going to cost $1,000, and then it's all done. And they preach that stuff. What bothers me is that in geology books, it's in there. The geologists say it's a fossil fuel. They've been bought. I mean, I went to a 4-year federal staff energy seminar run by the government of the United States during the so-called energy crisis. I was the participant that represented the railroad industry. The airline industry was there. Every AA, administrative assistant of senators and congressmen, was there. The CIA was there. The Defense Department was there. The State Department was there. Sometimes sitting right in front of me in the row would be Henry Kissinger with his friend, the head of Department of Defense. That's too bad. I can't put the names with them. But anyway, people like that, top men in the government, sitting there listening to the federal staff energy seminar. Well, what this was doing is for 4 years, they were teaching a propaganda line to the leading people in this country, and therefore to the leading people in the world, when you include the Kissinger and Schlesinger, among others. And the object of it was, as Kissinger used in his own terms when it was time for him to speak, to create a world price for oil. In other words, not 30 cents a gallon here and 90 cents a gallon there, but let's get a world price. That's their goal, and they're trying to do that for wheat and everything else. We don't realize what the controls are, whether it's oil or some of these other things. Almost everything today is being categorized at the highest price they can possibly make it go. And so calling petroleum a fossil fuel is the basis for this system with respect to petroleum. And I don't know if the name Arthur Kantrowitz rings any bell. Arthur Kantrowitz is the head of the Kantrowitz Labs, set up by the Avco company near Boston, scientific laboratories, and a great man in the scientific world. And Kantrowitz and I were sitting at a table at this seminar once, and the table happened to be all young college grad, PhD geologists. And so just to get a conversation started, I turned to Kantrowitz and I said, Arthur, what do you think about this foolishness of these speakers talking about fossil fuel? And it was kind of put up. He started laughing. He said, you know, that gets me. He says, I don't have a geology degree, but he had 1,000 other degrees. And he said, I don't understand. He said, you'd think that these heads, these other fellows at the table, we did it on purpose, start listening, you know. And he asked, he said, are you gentlemen? He says, you're here at the meeting. Are you gentlemen by any chance geologists? And one fellow, yes, I am. And the other, yeah. He said, well, why don't you tell me? He said, why is oil? You know, and he went on like that. We brought the house down because nobody could argue with Kantrowitz. He like Einstein. People aren't going to. And he told him right there. He said, just drop it. But it's in all the books and in all the papers. But it started from that strange meeting in 1892, a scientific convention. I have a big, thick scientific encyclopedia put out by the Van Oosteren Company that's about 15 years old now, but it has the whole story of the conference. It doesn't have the Rockefeller part, but it has the whole story of how they straightened out organic chemicals and how it was all figured, and they've got petroleum right in there.
Amazing. Amazing. So
that's it. You learn something. You learn something new every day, huh? Isn't that crazy?
This is awesome because I've tried to broach this with my husband, who's still came around to Convid, right? Slow to the geoengineering, very, very, very slow. This is something he's like, no, it's fossil fuel. And this is perfect. He cannot hear it from me. He can hear it from Joe Rogan, or he can hear it from this man right here. He needs to hear it from a man, and he needs to hear it from somebody who has had some title that has, because he recognizes titles and probably men over women. So this is going to be fantastic for me to show him. I can't wait.
Yeah.
This is great. This is let the layers peel off. I probably should have brought them into this, but I mean, it's really funny to me that he came outside to me one day and he said, Joe Rogan's talking about things that you told me about 2 years ago. And he goes, I thought you were really crazy. And he goes, you were right. And that was
like what thing? Like what's the
the corruption behind COVID. Yeah. My husband didn't see how well organized and coordinated it was, and how actually really manipulative and evil it really was.
Did he get jabbed? He did.
Yeah.
And you didn't though.
I didn't, and my son didn't either.
Did he want your son?
And my
family, your son to get jabbed?
Oh, Well, he would have. No, that sort of woke him up because he knew that in his mind, he's like, well, COVID doesn't hurt kids. Kids barely get any symptoms, if at all. So, and he had to do it for work, he said. And he knew how hard I was fighting for people to write their religious exemptions to not have to do it. And I went away for a couple of weeks to visit my parents. When I came back, he had this like really neat kind of like the guilty dog demeanor. And he said,
you did it.
Well, I got the shot. And he knew how passionate I was and how worked up I was over everything. And so I just said, well, I'm really sorry about that. And
Did you get the second one? Any boosters?
No boosters. No, he got what he needed. He got what he needed to work.
Yeah, man.
And now he actually sees things the way I do with regard to vaccines. He's like, I had no idea, but it actually took all this time, and it took him watching the treatment of everyone and how they behaved to finally wake up. But he couldn't hear it from me in the beginning, but it was when they came for the kids that he went, that's ridiculous. Now, had we been traveling, because he likes to travel, he probably would have given my son the jab just for the convenience of travel, right?
Yeah.
But I made sure, and so again, these were tense times, I mean, it was like I knew things that he wasn't ready to acknowledge, and it was navigating, right? Because because of him, I have the time to do all this research. So I'm very grateful for him, so we worked through some of the darkest periods, I'll say. And I'm amazed we made it through. We're very fortunate because I know so many families that just split, and they're still at odds today over all of that. And I'm grateful. Let me say this too. I never gave up trying to plant seeds and get information out there to the people I love the most. My family was spared. My dad with his cancer and my mom with her autoimmune disease, I said, don't do it. And I've shared this story before, but they actually were very worried about me in I think it was like late 2020, very worried because I was doing like this rapid download. Like I was thinking about 9/11. I learned about 9/11 finally. I looked into so many of the conspiracy theories that I thought they were, and I realized, oh my God. So I'm like spinning, and I'm trying to share everything with my family, and they're like, you're kind of going off the deep end. We're really worried about you. And they actually, both my parents, and I love my parents. We're so close to this day. We talk all the time. But they called me together on the phone and said, we need to talk. We're really worried about you. We think we're very concerned. We think you might need to get some help. And I remember, I thank God I had some friends that were like, they had been awake since 9/11. They're like, this is how it feels. You're isolated. You're rejected by your peers. And because of them, I was able to go, okay, my parents don't understand. And this is it's sad, but I'm going to keep sharing what I can. And I learned to back off a little bit with my intensity. I'm very intense. I'm not mellow. That's the joke, right? I'm not mellow. I'm actually very, very intense, very passionate. But I backed off a little bit. I was able to say to them, at the very least, wait, because the way they're pushing this, it's all experimental. They haven't done enough testing. They don't have their little measuring plans in place. The FDA had the best. It was like they were going to, make sure that they monitored it as it rolled out. And I just said, don't do it, because they're bribing people to take it, and there's no liability. And so they waited, and then all their friends got it. And they couldn't even tell their friends they didn't get it, because that's how intense the pressure was. These are lifelong friends of my parents who were in their 70s, right? They couldn't tell their best friends since babyhood that they didn't do it. And they watched their friends start to get some health issues. And they realized that they got COVID and they didn't die. And they went, okay, well, we survived it, so it was not that bad, right? My dad, with his cancer, 4 days he felt a little under the weather. My mom, like 10 days, okay? So they were like, okay, well, we've had it, and we made it through the worst of it. So, and after that was like their awakening. And now my dad is like pursuing the geoengineering stuff. He's writing to his representatives. He's trying to learn all he can. And he's
awake.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. No, my parents. And but that's what it took. It took them living through this very scary time where the whole world was telling them to get the jabs. And they listened to their crazy, unhinged daughter, right? And now my dad is like, we're so proud of you, honey. We're just so proud of you. You really have done your research, and you were, and that's the best part, is that I stayed true to who I was. I refused to stop sharing my truth with them, even though it made things tense for a while and it was awkward, but I had to tell them because I love them. And I thought, if I don't keep pushing, I will never forgive myself if they are harmed by this and they die. I will never forgive myself for not pushing a little harder.
Yeah. Now, are you aware of terrain theory as opposed to germ theory?
Yes. No, I've not done.
Okay.
I am. I've not done the extensive dive I wish I could say that I've done so that I can speak to it authentically and intelligently. But what I'll say is this. It's like the patterns, right, that we talked about. Here's Rockefeller's again, the creation of scarcity, right? The manipulation of that market. I know about their manipulation of recycling. I know about their manipulation of this carbon capture stuff. I now know about their manipulation within the pharmaceutical industry, right? So just like many other wealthy families, you start to see the patterns. And when you learn about them, you know, the Rockefeller education, right? And then you see all these other institutions that have shaped education and the indoctrination camps that are known as schools. And I will say that when I learned that Rockefellers were involved in some kind of discovery of the first virus or polio or something, I don't know, but you could probably explain it. What I thought was, aha, okay, there's something there. And so here's where I am today. I have, from my own observations and documentation and research, I have learned that my opinion is, based on my observations of what they've been spraying us with and what they're doing, is that our symptoms are not coming from a virus. We're being poisoned. Yes. And whether it's being poisoned through the whatever aerial assault they're dropping on us, whatever they put into the food or the water, you know, whatever they spray in the airplane cabin, whatever they feed us, we are processing symptoms of poisoning.
Yes.
So that's where I am today.
Yes, that's terrain theory. Terrain theory is basically viruses either don't exist or they're not what they're telling us. They're called like exonomes or something. And viruses are, like viruses and bacteria. Yeah. You know, now they say, oh, there's good bacteria. Remember before it was years ago, decades, it was like all bacteria is bad. Now, oh, but there's good bacteria. So terrain theory is almost like all bacteria is necessary. Yeah. It's that's not what's making us sick. The toxins in our food, the toxins in the air, that's what's getting us sick.
Absolutely. You know, as I drink my water, I drink distilled water now. I don't. Our tap water is disgusting. What's most
you can't drink tap water. Yeah, tap
water. No, I know. But I mean, that's what's so frustrating for me is I think about all the billions we're sending over to these other countries all the time, right? For the stupid wars and everything else. And I think, and we can't pour some water out of the sink and have it taste fresh, right? It's pumped with fluoride or it's
See, that's the other thing. The two conspiracy 101 theories are chemtrails and fluoride in the water. You got to handle that. There's so many other conspiracies. Oh my God, there's so many. But those are the two kindergarten ones. Why are we still putting fluoride in the motherfucking water? Like, what? And why can't people? Chemtrails are the easiest ones to see. You just look up and you're like, oh shit. Yeah. It's like right in front of your face. Yet everyone just drives around going, oh, we're by an airport. Oh, that's Southwest Airlines. Oh. So if it was when people say it's like, oh, it's the airport. I've been literally on maybe 1,000 flights, maybe more. I don't know, hundreds of flights. I'm flying all over the place. If you pay attention and you fly a lot, you pay attention that there's a highway in the sky for airlines. Like when you land at LAX, you're going to land a certain way. 95% of the time, you're coming from like, if you're coming from the east, you're going to go over Palm Springs, and that's where you're going to make your descent over Palm Springs, and you go and on your right, there's downtown LA. It's the same thing. The only other way is if there's so much wind going on, they make you go out to the ocean and then land from the ocean, going from west to east.
Yes.
But generally, it's the same thing. So if it's just planes, you would have chemtrails on that highway from Palm Springs over Ontario, over San Bernardino, by downtown LA, right over the 110. Where are those fucking lines at? There should be lines there. There should be lines there all fucking day. There's never any lines there. It's not commercial airlines. You can look up and go, that's not a commercial airline. You know why? Because the airport is over there, and the highway over the airport is over fucking Palm Springs all the way through San Bernardino or Ontario. I go, these flights are going, they're going back and forth over the valley. What are you talking about? It's fucking airlines. You know, all you gotta do is pay attention. Planes aren't just flying randomly all over the place. They're on a highway.
They are, absolutely. You know, what's funny, what actually helped my husband come around a little bit more, aside from the documentation, the evidence, and Public Records Act requests I was doing for our local cloud seeding project, when we were flying over Amsterdam, I don't, by the way, every flight, all I do is look out the window. That's all I do. I'm observing. I am obsessive compulsive. I will stare out that window and I have my phone at the ready and I'm just waiting. And I captured, Amsterdam had the crappiest weather. We came out of that weather. Either we were coming in or we were leaving because I was filming the whole thing. But I mean, I could see brown lines that were like the start, stop, right? Start, stop, brown streaks up above the cloud layers of that people could see, right? That was covering what was on top. Brown. And I caught the aircraft leaving the trails and I filmed it. And so that was something I've shared. I mean, and when my husband saw that, he went, wow, that really kind of makes me think there's something to what you're saying, because he watched it. It's shocking. So,
and there's millions of pictures of just like skies with just crazy lines all over them. Yeah, and to say, oh, that's just United Airlines. Like,
I've got to send Sean to share with
scary.
you. When you see even the motion in the sky, it's like, this is not what I saw as a child either. I mean, it's like intensified. And I couldn't tell you the timeline of when it intensified, but the things I'm seeing today, and I'm looking all the time, Sean, I'm talking.
Look at that. How do you look at that and go, that's American Airlines?
Yeah. I mean, even Sean, if I can find it, you'll look at the pictures I have, and I have it on Substack in the comment section. I'll post it again. It is unbelievable. And I wouldn't believe it unless I knew it was my own picture. Yeah, it's terrible. And they bleed and they drop and they spread. And then you see the metallic sundog, right? You see the rainbow spots everywhere, all the metals. It's atrocious.
Yeah, that's the craziest one that you see it. It's right above you every day. Like the last few days, like LA's been getting hit hard. So every time I look up, I'm like, RFK Jr. hasn't got to California yet. You know what I mean?
Look at this picture. I guess the pilot got lost on his way to San Francisco, or
you would have that shit all over the airport highways. You don't have that's the only place there's no chemtrails. I've never seen a commercial airline leave chemtrails.
And then those are some of the worst days you got. And I tell you, Sean, I have all those kinds of pictures where it's literally like this sickening haze. And I watch, it's so infuriating. That's why I went to the damn airport, because I'm so sick of waiting for someone to do something. And I thought, at the very least, I need to confront the bastard that's over my house spraying me. I can hear his plane. He's in a smaller Beechcraft, okay? So he's not, by the way, after my video went viral, people were excited. And there were groups out there, in my Substack, I explained what it was, okay? I talked about the plane and the contract and what I discovered. I've been documenting from the get-go. But somebody said, she confronted a military tanker pilot. And I was like, misinformation, right? So it's like I have to get on and talk about that stuff. But these are some of the ways that people then try to say, well, she's trying to throw shit at a wall and make it stick, and she's mellow scat. And so I guess what was my point? But I'm trying to encourage people to identify the aircraft, because not only are you going to find the cloud seeders, you're going to find out that there are Canadian companies, like they are right now, mapping California for minerals to help us with our 2030 goals, right? I'm trying to figure out when we're gonna be burnt out in the mountains here, because they find some minerals that are really Canadian companies mapping this right now. You're gonna find an aircraft, learn how to identify it, look into it, and go, oh, well, that's a company, Dynamic Aviation. What do? Well, they do sterilized insect technique, which is the dropping of insects, right? Oh, they do aerial surveillance. You'll find out that PG&E contracts with certain third-party companies, and they have a partnership with Palantir. Isn't that lovely? I mean, it's like they're all connected, and it's all about tracking, tracing, surveilling, monitoring everything down to the cellular level at this point. And so it can get so overwhelming. I like to go directly to the source that is in my area causing harm and call them out. They do not like to have the light shined on them. They want to hide behind their titles and their businesses or their offices. And when you call them out and expose them by name, and you say, this person's the decision maker here. Hey, this person's the person actually pressing the lever in the aircraft. This person's that I think is where we're going to be able to make an impact more readily than just waiting on Bobby and Trump to figure out their team and doing, I think we can do more right now. You do have to awaken the masses. You can do it through a variety of ways. You can share patents, you can share information, you can, there's so many ways to do it. I have tutorials on my Substack on how to read the skies. I have a written tutorial for people that want to read. I've got the video question and answer session. I plan on doing, I need to set up like a once a month meeting so people can get on and say, hey, I'm struggling with this and I'm noticing this, because I've been bombarded with like hundreds of individual messages and I can't get to everyone. So at some point I want to do like a monthly meet and greet so we can just have people dump their questions, because I'll talk for hours. I love this stuff.
Have you gotten to the moon missions? Have you done?
Oh yeah. Come on. I have a T-shirt that says Kubrick Productions, right? Kubrick Productions. So yeah.
Okay. Good. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, that is the biggest joke of all. And my husband and I still get in arguments over this too. But he's going to come around. I'm you got to keep cracking, right? Yeah. And it leads to a little tension because, like, sometimes somebody that loves you will just turn on their heel and walk away and call you crazy, and that's it, because they can't actually download it. It's too much. Yeah. But I keep on chipping, and we found a really nice way to laugh about it now. Because I came in the other day and I said, "Did you see Katy Perry?" I said, "Did you see the big penis shoot off into the sky and the occult ritual?" And he was like, "Where are you going to stop?" But it's really comical. And when that little Indian shuttle landed, they had the Masonic checkerboard on the outside of it. It's like, now we are hovering, and now we're landing. It's just so comical.
So your husband still believes we went to the moon?
Yes, and he thinks he wanted to be an astronaut when he grew up, and so he's tied to this so deeply. So many people are tied to these things. These are a part of the fabric of who they think they are. I mean, and again, it's like America's greatest accomplishment, right? So it's like really hard when you've believed in your country for so long. Like, we were number one and we did this. And I understand why it's hard to let go. I'm at the point now where I'm like, let's just rip off the Band-Aid. Like, just rip it off. I'm ready to face it. I've gone into some of the darkest corners but I have to do it. I have to know. It's like everything's coming off now. And I don't claim to be the expert, okay, or to have all the answers. I really don't, but I'm enthusiastic about life again. I feel like, okay, what's this about? What's going on over here? And what's that about? And I'm an open book. Like, you could throw anything at me and be like, it's possible.
Hey, Hibbler, do you have that Robert David Steele little clip, that one where he says that NASA is not a space agency, that CIA?
I'll try to find it. 1 second.
Oh, and then you've got the Jack
one thing about that,
Crowley, and they're all little rituals. Yeah. All little rituals. I think what they're doing are these trauma-based mind control rituals, like the Challenger exploding. Everyone in school got to watch that, right?
Yeah,
and
I remember that. I
was
in geometry class.
You remember?
Oh, I totally remember.
Well, these are like, this is, again, it's how you traumatize everybody all at once. Everyone.
So you looked into that.
Science claims versus biblical.
All the people that are still alive today. Yes.
Yes. You know what's crazy about the moon missions that no one ever talks about is, like, it's the not only the greatest human achievement ever, right? But it's like the most dangerous, right? The most dangerous trip. The most dangerous thing that humans have ever done, right? And they went like 6 or 7 times or something like that. And each time they went, it was a different crew. You would think that you would keep the same fucking crew that had the experience of going the first time. Go, no, we need a new crew. Every time it was a new crew. If I was producing it and it was legit, it would be the same motherfucking crew, unless somebody fucked up royally. You'd have to fire them, but it would be a big deal. You want the same crew that went the first time. Right?
Yes. And if anything, have half of the original crew to then train maybe 1 or 2 to replace them.
Yeah, totally.
Baloney. Total baloney.
Brand new crew every mission. And
senior CIA.
They did it with so there's a CIA whistleblower. You might want to show your husband this. And he's just, can you make it bigger? That's a small little video.
Yeah, maybe I'll find a different one. That is small. But
was that one? All right. Try that one right there. Boom.
But this one always has those graphics that come up, but it's fine. We'll watch it. It's fine. It's real quick.
The obvious question is, okay, you've been a senior CIA officer, and do you believe this? Yes, I believe this. However, let me clarify that 90% of the people in CIA are good people trapped in a bad system, and there are at least 7 CIAs. Okay? So CIA is not a monolithic organization. Also, when we, against the orders of President Truman, when Allen Dulles brought in all the Nazi scientists and so forth, they went to two places. They went to CIA and they went to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, which in our world we call it not a space agency.
That's great.
Oh man, why did they cut it off right there? Let it go.
That's great.
And as Kathy O'Brien just said so clearly, that's where the bulk of the mind control has been done.
That's where the bulk of the mind control has been done, not a space agency.
Yes, isn't that?
You got to show that to your husband.
Oh yeah. I will. Oh, it's going to be painful. I'm here to rub us back. I think it's really hard for some people. It's really hard.
Yeah, you're gonna have to just say, hey, you want me to rub your back? And you start, and then you say, hey, seen any cool videos lately?
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking to him about, and where he's also slowly coming around too is there was some amazing old, like massive stones. I don't remember where it was, but long story short, what he knew in his own mind was there is no way humans were able to put these massive stones together so artfully. And so that makes him think there's something else there too. And that's a whole other ball of wax that I've gone into. In fact, I watched a series called What on Earth Happened by Warnon in 2021. And I'm telling you, oh my, it still hits me. That series changed my life because it just blew off these, like, all the bars that were kind of there. I grew up just, former Catholic, former Episcopalian, became atheists, okay? My parents raised me, they were like, religion is just about control, right? And I believed that growing up because, you see how many pedophiles are pastors and deacons and everything else. And you see it's the same thing in the school system. It's the perfect place to prey on children and people. And I do think a lot of religions use fear to control people. And so I grew up without any belief in anything. I didn't read any Bibles. I didn't have any understanding of the history or the stories, which is probably a good thing because now I'm on this really authentic journey, because it was around 2020 and 2021 that I was like, this is really spiritual. And these people that I'm learning about, whether I believe it or not, they clearly believe in like this, it's like satanic Lucifer. They're flashing these symbols. They're part of this occult esoteric stuff. And they really believe in it. And this is like, they're serious about it. The United Nations has all the symbolism, right? The meditation room, the black cube, Saturn, all this stuff. So what struck me is there's something there. And I went, and then I watched this series and I learned a lot about the Masons and the Illuminati, okay? That was new for me. I think I learned that in 2019, watching something. I got the superficial rundown in 2019, and then I started really diving in. And I went, and that's when I found out that Erasmus Darwin and Charles Darwin were 33-degree Freemasons. And I went, I got to rethink this, because I grew up being told about evolution and I didn't really think about it. I just kind of believed it. Like most people, you just believe what you've been hearing your whole life, right? And that just blew everything up. And it was the most, I cried. I was spinning for days just thinking, what is this world, And honestly, I see everything so differently now. I see, you see Devil's Tower. We used to be called something else, but now it's like that it's like ancient tree versus a rock, right? You think about things like that. I'm looking at, did they do mining in these areas that we think?
Have you got into Tartaria and the old world?
A little bit. Yes, I have. No, a little bit. And it's so, and by the way, to go from being like a non-believer to now going, oh my gosh, there were the floods and the fires, and every religion, every culture remembers the floods, right? Yeah. And everyone tells the same stories, no matter what religious background or, everyone's telling these stories. And you think about the fires everywhere. Yeah. In Seattle, where I grew up, that area, the fires, the devastating fires that ripped apart the town, and there was the underground.
Every town had a fire.
Every town. City. And so for me, I'm going, so again, I'm not an expert, but now I know enough to know that we've been lied to for a very long time, and everybody should put everything on the table at this point. Drop your ego, drop your lifelong learned biases and belief systems. Everything should be challenged right now. Everything should be on the table. So can I say with certainty whether it's absolutely true? All I can say is I do have the certainty that we have been lied to, and we've been indoctrinated, and we've had ritual abuse shown to us, and we've been traumatized generation after generation, whether it was the Red Scare and the duck and, duck for the bombs and COVID was And 9/11 even was in my lifetime. I didn't recognize 9/11 at the time. I was in my early 20s and oblivious, but it wasn't until I was in my 40s and I went, wow, this is big. And so now I'm aware of it all, and I'm now just trying to. I don't even watch the news. I don't watch any news. I'm not even staying on top of all that garbage. It's all distraction, bread and circuses. Even the freedom groups that I love so much, they're still distracted, and they're like, "Oh, the Tesla bombers were caught. We're so excited." I'm like, "Yeah, but Podesta still walks. He's a pedophile. He was overseeing hundreds of billions of dollars in climate change investments under Biden. Why is he still walking? Why are the Clintons still walking? Why is the Bush family still walking? Right? So screw your, you got the Tesla guys that were about, I realize we've been lied to and distracted. And that's why nothing.
I will say this though. I'm with you with all that.
Yeah.
But everything that we've gone through, like all the bullshit, the Biden years, especially the scamdemic, we needed that shit.
Yeah.
We are way more awake now as a society than ever before, and it would have never happened without the 4 Biden years. It would have never happened without the scamdemic. They can't do another scamdemic. They try to do another. They try to do it again. They tried to do it last year. Everyone ignored it. So it was a good thing. Like if I got put in a time machine and back to 2014, and someone said there was some kind of freedom group and they were going to try to save the world, and they asked me to go, yo, you came from the future, how do we awaken everybody? I would say do exactly what we've done. Exactly, because there's no other way to do it. There is no other way.
Yes.
Like right now, like people say, like how did Trump, he was so pro-vaccine, Operation Warp Speed and all that, but everybody's against not everybody, but there's way more anti-vaxxers than ever before because of Operation Warp Speed, because the vaccines injured people. There's going to be some casualties, but when the dust settles, it all looks like a blessing in disguise. There's no way we would have the level of awakeness, if that's even a word, without the bullshit we went through. It's like every time there's some bullshit, when they're like, oh, we're gonna give sex changes to children and not tell the parents. Nobody's into that. So it's like that kind of stuff. Like we need that because that wakes people up. Like you said earlier you said people just, when everything's going good, they think everything's good. We're just going to go back and have barbecues and not pay attention. I think the reason shitty stuff is still happening is to make sure that we don't fucking relax and rest like it's not over yet. But if you think, just think about how far we've come as a society, whether you believe in Trump or not or whatever, we've come a long way. And there's so like the vaccine companies they're shaking in their boots because they're not only questioning the COVID vaccine, they're questioning all the vaccines, polio, like that woman you said, I forget her name.
Suzanne Humphreys. Yeah, amazing.
That was huge. That was huge.
That was huge. And let me say something though. Now this is where my head goes because you're right. And I have to say, okay, celebrate where we've come. But now they know that we're onto them and that their jabs are poison, right? So guess what they're coming for? The animals, the food, and aerosolizing the vaccines and little mosquitoes as vaccinators. So that because they know that if we had a choice, we're not going to inject it anymore. So they have to find other ways to keep paying these pharmaceutical agencies for vaccine products. So what they're doing is they're dropping it for wildlife. They're putting it in feed for wildlife. They're vaccinating salmon. It's the most insane thing. They're creating the same market, but now that's going to impact all of nature. And my concern is this, because you're aware of CRISPR engineering and genetic modification. My thought is they don't give a crap if they wipe out everything natural because they will replace it with the CRISPR engineered version. That's my concern. So I'm still trying to sound the alarm on, like the NIH spent $5 billion on aerosolizing a COVID vaccine. Why? Why aren't we just cutting them off right now? Why is the NIH not completely cut off and the CDC completely just disbanded? They have been so harmed, So anyway, I just want more. But
we're on our way. We're on our way. We've done a lot. We've come a long way. We just got to keep pushing. You just don't stop.
Yes, we do.
So just keep pushing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
That's why I have you on this podcast, and I'm doing my share, and you're doing your share, and don't forget to enjoy your life too. Because I do. I know the whole bread and circuses thing. I know all about that, like sports. Like sports was created to distract you from how they're ripping you off and how they're fucking with you.
Yeah.
And I get it, because each person has a certain amount of time to look into things. And if they're flooded with sports and football and all that stuff, they're not going to have time to figure it all out. But I do put a lot of time into what's going on and how they're fucking us. I do. So I actually use football to get away from it because I can't be Alex Jones all day.
No, I know.
I am so into football. I know why it was created, but it didn't work on me. It didn't work on me. But now I'm using it. I'm using it to get away. I love football. And I was listening to football podcasts on the way over here. Because I'm trying to.
You have to.
I have to.
You have to. And let me say this. I couldn't live with the bitterness and resentment that I might sometimes express. What I'll say is I still sing and make up funny songs. And my son, we still occasionally go to movies together. I have found a way so that he can still, I'm not going to be a hermit. We can still enjoy life's pleasures, right? We can watch a movie together. And now, not to say that I don't say, oh, isn't that interesting? But it's in a lighthearted way because we've had the serious talks. But now he sees things, so I've given him the truth, but it's not so heavy that we can't actually just still enjoy the movie and understand that, yes, with the movie comes this, but we're also going to go have some fun.
How old is he?
I agree. Oh, he's going to be 12 very soon.
Oh, my son's 13.
Oh,
he doesn't know shit. He doesn't know shit. Like, we make fun of people that wear masks, and he's into guns. We have, we take him shooting. So I don't really explain to him how evil the world works and how corrupt our government is and all governments around the world. But as long as he's into guns, we got him into guns. He loves guns and he loves shooting. So I think that the Second Amendment will keep him straight. Eventually, when he's maybe when he's 18, I'm going to sit him down and say, "Listen, I got a lot to tell you." But right now, he's just into baseball. He's into karate. He just into. When he's not playing baseball, he's playing baseball video games. He watches stupid TV programs. We're just. He's just happy. He's like the happiest kid ever. He doesn't know how evil the world is.
I am not entirely militant where my son can't have occasional junk food. Like we've talked about bioengineered foods. That's sort of where I try to draw the line is that bioengineered, ignore it. But if you want to have Cheetos on occasion, go for it. So we do that. But then also he's playing, his friends all play games, so he's got an Xbox. Yeah. So he's playing some games on Xbox. He's able to talk to his friends. So I'm not going to shelter him so much that he's like, when he comes out of the dark,
No, you can't.
So, and also, I was just going to say, because of what he saw me go through with my resistance with the masks, right? Because I was non-compliant, because it caused strife at home. I had to explain to him why I was doing it. And then, so he knows it all. He knows the media lies, the government lies. Don't trust anything that comes out of their mouths. Question everything, research for yourself, and just know that symbolism and programming happens in media. So if you notice something like he'll say, "Mom, I think there was some subliminal messaging in this right here. Take a look, rewind." Because I would video certain things and then we'd go through slow-mo and we'd see like the flashing of like somebody eating a slice of pizza and some creepy little person play, so he gets it all, but he's not a depressed kid. He's like thrilled about the next, game that's coming out. And I just saw half of your interview with a football player. I don't know his name because I don't follow football.
Aaron Rodgers?
Yes. Oh, he's gorgeous. And amazing. He was my hero because I heard he was one that didn't get the shots and that, Yes. Well, you mentioned my son's doing flag football. It's like, and you're like, flag football. I love flag football, so he's not crushing his skull. But, so he's doing his sports. He's done Jiu-jitsu now, too, for about a year and a half. So, I know a little bit. I watched like half of your interview, but I didn't get enough. I just asked Sean before this interview. I said, tell me about him. Is he an activist? Is he this or this? And he goes, no. He gave me a quick summary. I'm like, oh, good. I'm in good company. I'll start now watching some of your shows. I'm just really enjoying all the questions that you've been asking we can talk about these things all for weeks.
Hell yeah. It's good to know that you figured out the moon missions. That's
huge.
That's
and there's much more. Yeah.
We don't have to talk about all that other stuff.
No, we can't. We can't fit it into a show that people can fall asleep. But maybe another day.
How do my people reach you?
Yes. Okay. So Substack. MELLOW. Oh, my name says something different. So Mellow with an O, MELLOW, and then KAT. I'm Mellow Cat, and it's a joke. But on BitChute, I'm Mellow Cat, and on Substack, I'm Mellow Cat. There you go, Mellow Cat newsletter, and you can. Oh, yeah, I share stuff on my Substack and BitChute. Oh, there's all my videos. Amazing. Woo-hoo-hoo. Thank you.
How come you don't get on Rumble?
You know why? Because I was on Rumble for a while, and I'll tell you something. If you want your videos to be searchable, you have to give up all your content to Rumble. And guess what? When I tried to delete a video, Rumble wouldn't let me delete it because they owned the content. And I thought that was total bullshit. So I wrote to them and said, I am being this and this and this. I need you to take it all down now. And they did.
Wow, I didn't know that. They own my videos?
Well, if you want them to be searchable. Now, for my subscribers, of which I had very few, all my videos are accessible. But if someone was searching for a topic on Rumble, there's like 4 boxes you can check, right? It's like this version, this, you know, and I was checking like some second version over here. I didn't read the privacy policies in terms of services. I only found out about them. I mean, typically I try to, but it was after I tried to delete a video because I ran for supervisor in this county. I lost, and I thought this video is a little too intense, I think, for this county right now. So I was going to remove it, and I couldn't. So.
All right, cool. So BitChute, Substack. Thank you very much. We'll do this again. I promise.
Awesome. Eddie, it was really a pleasure to meet you. You're very easy to talk to. And Sean, it's great to have you here. And thanks for all the great videos. And I just so appreciate you and this connection here that you made.
Yes, and thanks for coming on. It was a great show, and this film that you're a part of is going to change the world. And, you know, I make films for the masses, so we're just going to shoot to get this on Amazon Prime. There's no better way to wake up our neighbors than have a platform they're used to renting videos on. So hopefully it works out. And our strategy, again, is to wake up our neighbors, and this is the way to do it.
Awesome.
So
awesome. Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.
The Jiu-Jitsu Dojo is the ultimate training ground for life. Jiu-Jitsu will accelerate the evolution of your being, your consciousness, your soul. Through this amazing art, you will prove to yourself that you can master anything you set your mind to.
Happy birthday, Eddie Bravo.
I leave for Brazil tomorrow.
Are you the Fear Factor guy?
I'm like 6 pounds over. Time to sweat it out. Just imagine someone that has no idea how different your game is.
I'll tell you what this weekend was, man. It was a culmination point where all your hard work comes to like one great moment in time. You showed that you're a fucking champion. Guy who goes against convention. You created your own shit and figured interesting ways to get around problems in jiu-jitsu. And shows you that great things are possible if you work hard, if you dedicate yourself, and you use your creativity, and you push through. Your own human potential just goes up.
My 10th Planet Association has grown rapidly to over 70 academies worldwide, and their curriculums are all synced to 10th Planet headquarters located in downtown Los Angeles. I'm Eddie Bravo. I hope to see you on the mats.